Chapter 1285. Was a grade 3 god realm good? If word of this got out, Yi Tianyun would be scolded to death. A grade 3 god realm might not be the best, but it was at least 10 times stronger than a heavenly spring god realm. How could it not be good? They would definitely scold Yi Tianyun for being short-sighted. If he rejected a grade 3 god realm, how could he expect to jump straight to a grade 4 god realm? A grade 4 god realm usually recruited from a grade 3 god realm. It was rare to see someone from a grade 2 god realm. That was because they all had a threshold. Grade 3 god realm was the lowest, and some didn't even bother to recruit a grade 3 god realm. Because there was a huge gap between the two, it was better to recruit around a grade 4 god realm instead of going back to a grade 3 god realm. Little junior brother, I don't know what to say. I can only say that you're strong enough. Yulong Lord of Heaven gave him a thumbs up. If it were him, he would have joined without a second thought. As for the 3 envoys, they would choose the illusory gold god realm. If there was only one, he would also join immediately. How could he give up such a precious opportunity? Once he joined a grade 3 god realm, he would receive all sorts of special training that far surpassed the treatment here. However, Yi Tianyun had rejected such good treatment. That was the scariest part. Yulong Lord of Heaven and the others all thought the same. They felt that Yi Tianyun was really amazing. He didn't even want to join a grade 3 god realm. If this is your decision, then work hard in your cultivation. Although the heavenly spring god realm is a bit weaker than a grade 3 god realm, if you focus on cultivation, you can still break through to a higher level. Elder East Cloud didn't blame Yi Tianyun. Everyone had their own choices. There was no need to force things. Thank you for your concern, Elder East Cloud. Yi Tianyun smiled gratefully. They didn't blame him too much. Everyone had their own path. It was a pity not to join, but one had to choose their own path. There was no point in forcing things. After they left, Yi Tianyun was about to go to the Glazefield Lord, but Elder Dongyun suddenly remembered something and asked, I almost forgot to ask you something. I can't see through your cultivation now. I don't know what your current cultivation is. Is he the first layer of the Lord of Heaven, or the second layer? I need to consolidate this level of cultivation. My cultivation? Yi Tianyun said with a smile, my cultivation is now at the peak of Heavenly Monarch Realm. I don't need to say anything else. Elder, I'll go look for Region Lord Colored Glaze first. The Region Lord told me that when I break through to the Lord of Heaven, she'll bring me to a place. With that, he turned and left, leaving behind a dumbfounded Elder Dongyun. What's going on? The Lord of Heaven has reached the pinnacle? What a freak. How did he cultivate? This kid wouldn't lie to me, right? Elder Dongyun was shocked by Yi Tianyun's words. The Lord of Heaven had reached the pinnacle of the Lord of Heaven? How long had it been? With this level of cultivation, he had already left the Lord of Heaven and the others in the dust. Where was the promised little junior brother? Now, his cultivation base could instantly kill them. They weren't even on the same level anymore. No wonder he rejected the offer of a grade 3 god realm. Could it be that he met a senior while training outside? Elder Dongyun clapped his hands in excitement. Turning his head to look around, he muttered to himself, I can't let this matter get out. If it gets out, it will attract even more grade 3 god realm experts. In Huang Xiaolong's opinion, the current grade 3 god realm was nothing. The master behind Yi Tianyun was the most important. Yi Tianyun soon arrived at the Domain Lord's divine palace. After reporting his arrival, the guards led him in. After circling around several times, he arrived at the empty divine hall. The guard indicated for him to wait here. He didn't move, and waited for a while. Before long, Domain Lord Valurium emerged from the water core. Her eyes lit up when she saw Huang Xiaolong. You've broken through so quickly? I thought you'd need more time to prepare. Yi Tianyun was also looking at her. Her condition had stabilized. She had completely recovered from her previous exhaustion. In fact, her condition was much better than before. Greetings, Lord Valurium. Yi Tianyun cupped his fists. Let's skip the formalities. Domain Lord Valurium waved her hand and smiled. It looks like you're ready. Yes, this disciple is ready. We can set off at any time, Yi Tianyun said. Your cultivation base is almost there. If you had come a little later, I would have set off. Next time, it will be some time before we can set off together. Domain Lord Valurium smiled. What a coincidence. How long will it take for us to set off? Yi Tianyun inquired. We'll set off in about a month. If you don't have anything else to do, come cultivate with me. We'll set off together. Domain Lord Valurium said. Many thanks, Lord Valurium. Yi Tianyun nodded, not bothering to stand on ceremony. Then, the two of them went down together. Domain Lord Valurium didn't ask any questions. As long as his cultivation base reached the required level, she would bring him along. Lord Valurium, the Grade 3 God Realm envoys came to look for me, but I rejected them all. Yi Tianyun said from the side. I'm aware of this. It might seem like you're at a disadvantage, but I think you'll soon realize that you won't be at a disadvantage. Domain Lord Valurium smiled faintly. Especially after you come with me, there'll be a God Realm war. Domain Lord Valurium paid close attention to the matters here. Moreover, a Grade 3 God Realm envoy came to recruit him. If she didn't know about such a big matter, then she wouldn't be a Domain Lord. Unless she was in closed-door cultivation and didn't have time to come out. There's nothing to be at a disadvantage about. To me, cultivating in the Heavenly Spring God Realm isn't any worse than cultivating in a Grade 3 God Realm. Yi Tianyun smiled. His cultivation method was different. As long as he was given enough freedom, nothing would be a problem. If these words of yours were to spread, wouldn't you become a laughingstock? Everyone knows that a Grade 3 God Realm is much stronger than a Grade 2 God Realm, yet you still dare to say such words. Domain Lord Valurium smiled. However, if I didn't know about that mysterious area, I wouldn't be able to compare. When the time comes, you'll know that the resources I'm offering are not even something a Grade 3 God Realm can offer. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. It seemed like it was a holy land for cultivation, or some special place. Domain Lord Valurium didn't explain in detail, choosing to keep him guessing. After all, it was useless to say it out loud. It was better to see it with his own eyes and explain in detail. When they reached the edge of the water core, Yi Tianyun and Domain Lord Valurium sat in meditation to cultivate. Yi Tianyun also slowly absorbed the energy from the water core. The only thing he gained was experience points. It couldn't expand the water core in his body. At this time, he was more concerned about what kind of elemental core he should condense. The third core was extremely important. There must be no conflict. Chapter 1286. The Glaze Region Master was cultivating at the side, while Yi Tianyun was thinking about what kind of core to condense. He didn't think for long before he slapped his thigh. What's there to think about? Don't I have 3 cores now? Yi Tianyun was pleasantly surprised. Condense that thunder core into a planet. That's 2 birds with 1 stone. There's no need to think about it at all. He had a thunder core in his body. That was forcefully given to him by the heavenly tribulation when he was breaking through it. If he used it for cultivation, he could directly form a planet. There was no need to specially absorb anything. To condense a core into a planet, not only did the core have to be big enough, but it also had to be balanced in all aspects. The core was the core, and the planet was the planet. This was the same principle as when he condensed his second planet and condensed his life core. There was no problem condensing it, but when he condensed it, he realized that the two clashed. Now, the thunder core was the same. There was no problem at all. When it condensed into a planet, he wouldn't know the real situation. Let's try it first. The thunder core and the water core seem to have a mutually reinforcing effect. To condense a planet, there had to be a mutually reinforcing effect. As for the counter effect, there definitely was. For example, the thunder element was somewhat of a counter to the wood element. As long as the two elements were separated, they could coexist harmoniously. If the two elements countered each other and caused a conflict, it would be troublesome. It could easily cause a lot of trouble. It might even cause the collapse of other planets. After careful consideration, Yi Tianyun finally decided to condense the thunder core into a solid form. He didn't think too much and immediately began to condense the thunder core in his body. After continuously injecting energy into it, the thunder core rapidly grew bigger and started to condense a planet. At this time, the water core at the side, as well as the water planet, continuously released energy to provide energy to the thunder core. With the help of the two energy bodies, the thunder core began to condense rapidly. It was much faster than before. There's hope. Yi Tianyun was pleasantly surprised. Seeing other elements coming to help, it meant that the compatibility between the two elements was not bad. This way, the breakthrough effect would undoubtedly be better. As he continued to condense, the planet became bigger and bigger. On the planet that had just condensed, there were dense lightning bolts raging in the surroundings. It looked very violent, as if it could split a nearby planet in half at any time. Yi Tianyun carefully controlled the planet of thunder to move to the side. They left Jupiter and came to the edge of Mercury to grow. He did not want to cause a conflict. It would be troublesome if his body exploded. Under his careful control, the situation of the lightning planet in his body became more and more stable. The initial irascibility quickly became docile. However, on the surface, it was still a terrifying lightning that wreaked havoc. It would be extremely difficult to have any life inside. It looked like an energy sphere. What kind of life could survive inside? If there was one, it must be the type that was extremely resistant to lightning. Power of lightning? At this moment, the Lioli region lord sensed something strange and woke up. She turned to look at Yi Tianyun. What he saw was the surface of Yi Tianyun's body. It was filled with the power of lightning, and it looked like it was not weak at all. What's going on? He's still cultivating the power of lightning? The Lioli region lord did not expect that Yi Tianyun was condensing the planet of thunder. Instead, she thought that Yi Tianyun was cultivating the power of lightning. A cultivator's body could have several elemental powers. Some were born with it, and some cultivated it themselves in the later stages. Most people who had multiple elemental powers cultivated it themselves in the later stages. They would not be born with many elemental powers. As for condensing more than one planet, it was even more difficult. It was simply impossible. They had never seen the existence of two planets. They all only had one planet. The existence of more than one planet was extremely easy to explode, and it was easy for problems to arise. The Lioli region lord frowned. She did not advocate the cultivation of multiple elemental powers. If there was extra time, it would be better to strengthen oneself instead of cultivating multiple elemental powers. After all, Yi Tianyun cultivated the water element previously. If he were to mix in the lightning element, wouldn't that be nonsense? However, Yi Tianyun was still cultivating, so she did not disturb him. When he wakes up, I must teach him a lesson. The Lioli region lord nodded. Yi Tianyun did not know that the Lioli region lord had a problem with him. Instead, he continued to concentrate on condensing the planet. However, in the continuous condensing process, he realized that he did not have enough energy. To be precise, the power of lightning was insufficient. When he condensed it to a certain size, he could not go up anymore. Even if he had energy like the water core, he could not continue condensing it. This meant that he either had to absorb the power of lightning or absorb the lightning core to condense it. It seems that I can't continue. I have to absorb it. Yi Tianyun thought that he could condense it here. It seemed that he was too naive. When he woke up, it was almost time. There were only a few days left. At this moment, the Lioli region lord stood up and looked at him. Are you cultivating the power of lightning? This, more or less. Yi Tianyun was stunned by the sudden question from the Lioli region lord. Don't cultivate this. It will affect your other progress. Trust me. Give up on this power of lightning. The Lioli region lord said earnestly. It is not a good thing to cultivate too much. You are quite talented now. It will be fine if you focus on one or two attributes. It will be chaotic if you cultivate too much. I will seriously consider this. Yi Tianyun nodded and did not directly refuse. The Lioli region lord felt helpless. Hearing what Yi Tianyun said, she knew that he would not give up. Forget it, forget it. It is up to you. I am not your master. I can't control so much. The Lioli region lord said in a deep voice. Prepare to leave. Are you ready? Her attitude suddenly turned cold. It was obvious that she was very dissatisfied with Yi Tianyun for not listening to her. In her opinion, Yi Tianyun's cultivation was wrong. As a god monarch expert, she knew a little more. Naturally, she could not stand it. Yi Tianyun did not explain anything. He knew that the Lioli region lord's persuasion was for his own good. But his situation was different. If he did not do this, he would not be able to break through to a higher level, especially since their thoughts were deeply rooted in their minds. Who would believe that there was a 10 refining earth monarch? Who would believe that there was a 10 refining earth monarch? Chapter 1287. Disciple is ready. We can depart at any time. Yi Tianyun smiled and didn't explain anything. What Lioli region mistress thought was her business. It had nothing to do with him. Then let's depart now. You should control your strength. Don't let anything happen. Lioli region mistress was still worried, so she reminded him. Region mistress, this is something I can control. There won't be any problems. Yi Tianyun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lioli region mistress was really worried about him. Okay, then let's depart now. Region mistress Lioli brought him along as they left the divine palace. She boarded her own spirit boat and flew towards the outside. As expected of a region mistress level spirit boat. It was a mid-grade heavenly law level spirit boat. Its price was shocking. Its speed was shocking. However, no matter how shocking it was, it couldn't be compared to Yi Tianyun's teleportation divine stone, which could arrive in an instant. Of course, he had to get the coordinates first. Otherwise, he would have to fly there obediently. Since the teleportation divine stone was very useful, Yi Tianyun bought a lot of teleportation divine stones and set the coordinates one by one. Each teleportation divine stone could set 10 coordinates, so he had to buy a few more. Along the way, Lioli region mistress didn't talk to Yi Tianyun. It wasn't that Yi Tianyun's refusal made her unhappy, so she ignored Yi Tianyun. It was because there wasn't much to talk about. A junior was beside her, so there was nothing to talk about. Unless their cultivation was the same, then there would be a chance for them to talk. Now that their cultivation wasn't equal, and there was some friction, they were too lazy to talk. Time passed quickly. The spirit boat flew for a month, but they still hadn't reached their destination. Yi Tianyun observed the situation outside. He knew that they had already left the heavenly spring divine domain and were flying to another divine domain. As for where they were headed, Yi Tianyun didn't know. In short, it was definitely not a simple place. If even Lioli region mistress had an effect on it, it definitely wouldn't be simple. Both of them were meditating and cultivating, and this was how they usually spent their time. Thus, time did not feel unbearable, and it could be said that time passed very quickly. After flying for half a month, the Lioli region master finally opened her eyes. She looked at him and said, "It's almost time. We're about to reach the surrounding area of our destination." Yi Tianyun opened his eyes. He was surrounded by rubble. It looked very chaotic. He had no idea where he was. "Where is this place?" Yi Tianyun asked curiously. "This is the desolate realm of gods, a place with a lot of rocks. You could say that no area is normal. Rocks are everywhere. If we are not careful, even an earth monarch would be severely injured," Region Lord Glazed explained. Yi Tianyun nodded. He could see this point. The flying speed of the rubble outside was too fast. Ordinary earth monarchs wouldn't be able to dodge it. He did not expect that there would be such a dangerous god territory. It was completely different from the other god territories. Through observation, there were no signs of life in the surroundings, only rocks flying everywhere. As for planets, at least for now, there was not a single one. No wonder it was said that only the Lord of Heaven could come here. Even an earth monarch of the 6 or 7 refinements might not be able to withstand this rubble. The safest thing was the Lord of Heaven's cultivation. When the rubble came, he would be able to withstand it. What kind of special cultivation place is there? Yi Tianyun asked curiously. There is a special cultivation place. To be precise, it is a celestial venerate historical site. There are inheritances left by celestial venerates and many insights. More importantly, There is indeed a special place filled with celestial venerate power. It allows us to carefully comprehend the celestial venerate power and strengthen our cultivation in this area, Region Lord Glazed explained. Filled with celestial venerate power, Yi Tianyun was shocked. There was such a special environment. This reminded him of the celestial venerate path. However, the celestial venerate path had a cultivation limit. Not everyone could enter it. Therefore, when they found the celestial venerate path, they could only be envious. Yes, because the pressure there is greater, without the Lord of Heaven's cultivation, you will not be able to withstand it. The Lord of Heaven is only the most basic cultivation. If it is a little higher, it will undoubtedly be better. Let me remind you first. When the time comes, you must listen to my orders. Do whatever I tell you to do. Do not act on your own, understand? Region Lord Glazed was unprecedentedly serious. This proved that the place they were going to was extremely dangerous. If she was not careful, even she would die there. When Region Lord Glazed returned with a pale face, it was the best proof. This disciple understands. Yi Tianyun would definitely not act recklessly. This place was so unfamiliar. Even if he wanted to act recklessly, it would depend on the situation. Immediately, Region Lord Glazed took out 2 masks, one of which she handed to Yi Tianyun and said, "This is a mask to conceal our identity. It will not let other cultivators know which god realm we come from, to avoid other disputes." There are other god realm cultivators? Yi Tianyun frowned. He thought it was just the 2 of them. It seemed that she was not the only one who knew about this place. Yes, and there are many of them. They come from different god realms. But they are all like this. They hide themselves very well, so that others cannot tell where they come from. Region Lord Glazed said in a deep voice, "This way, if there are any treasures, it will undoubtedly be much easier to take action." Her eyes flashed with cold light. Either she had encountered this kind of thing before, or she had seen others encounter this kind of thing. Yi Tianyun nodded. No wonder she would wear a mask. If they killed the powerhouses of the other forces like this, the other party would not be able to find out their identity, so naturally there was no way to pursue the matter. The most frightening thing was revenge. Those who came here were not ordinary people. If they were not careful, they could provoke a big force. In short, when the time comes, follow me. Our goal is to cultivate and absorb the power of celestial venerables. As for the other treasures, we do not need to worry about them for the time being. Region Lord Glazed looked at him and said, "The most important thing for you now is to feel the power of celestial venerables. You are through the celestial venerables path, but in this aspect, the more the better. No one will complain that it is too little. This disciple understands." Yi Tianyun nodded. It seemed that there would not be any conflict this time. They were simply going there to cultivate and absorb. It was impossible that someone would attack them, right? After flying for a while, Region Lord Glazed pulled him out of the spirit boat and quickly put the spirit boat into the storage space. At the same time, she waved her hand and smashed the rocks that were crashing over into powder. They had just come down, and there were already so many rocks attacking them. It was indeed very dangerous. Chapter 1288. Although Yi Tianyun wanted to say that he could handle it himself, the Lioli Territory Lord dragged him along and destroyed the rocks on the side together, so he was more than happy to do so. Therefore, he did not say much and let the Lioli Territory Lord lead him forward. After passing through one area of rubble after another, a special sealed space appeared in front of him. There wasn't a single piece of rock in this area, but the surrounding area was densely packed with rocks that surrounded this sealed space. There were too many rocks there, dozens of times more than outside. It could be said that they formed a thick wall that blocked the outside. Break. The Lioli Territory Lord rushed forward with him, and with a sudden wave of her hand, the rocks in front of them were smashed into powder. Immediately, the 2 of them went in with a swoosh. After they disappeared, the rocks on the side were filled up again, and in the blink of an eye, the area returned to its original state. After entering, Yi Tianyun immediately felt that he was in a special space. There was no flow of energy around him, and everything was so calm. It felt like he had entered a space with nothing. If it was not for the huge statue in front of him, he would really think that he had come to the wrong place. There was a huge statue in front of him that was as big as a planet. The statue maintained a cross-legged posture and just sat in the void. There were circles of energy around the void that wrapped around the huge statue, making it look very sacred. Such a huge statue, how could it be here? When Yi Tianyun saw the huge statue, he was shocked. He did not know who built such a huge statue there. The statue's appearance could not be seen clearly at all. He felt like he was going blind when he looked up and took a few more glances at it. He hurriedly lowered his head and did not dare to continue to look at the statue. I can't see the statue's appearance at all. The energy is too strong. Yi Tianyun was shocked and felt very shocked. How was he looking at a statue? It was like looking at a heavenly master. Although he had fought with two ultimate gods, he had never had a head-on confrontation. The power displayed by this statue was far from what the evil spiritualist territory lord could compare with. It felt like they were several levels stronger than the evil spirit region lord. It was very likely that this was the statue of an upper Empyrean, otherwise it wouldn't be so dazzling. Looks like you've improved quite a bit. You can look at this heavenly sovereign statue a few more times. The colored glaze region master didn't dare to look too much either. She lowered her head and looked down. She didn't dare to raise her head and look at the celestial venerable statue. It's all right, but I can't look at it directly for too long. The power of its might is too strong. I don't know why the statue is here, and it's so huge. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He couldn't even see the statue clearly. He could only see the body, not the face. This is the Empyrean statue. Legend has it that the upper Empyrean passed away here and became this huge statue, Region Master Glaze explained. An upper Empyrean died here? Yi Tianyun was startled. He asked doubtfully, upper-level heavenly venerables. Logically speaking, their lifespans are already extremely long. Although they can't be said to be immortal, they can at least live for a very long time, right? Nothing is absolute. Even Empyreans have their own problems, Region Master Glaze explained. The glazed Region Master explained, moreover, this is just a rumor. Who knows if an upper-level celestial venerable passed away here? In this statue, it's like a huge tower. The higher you climb, the more benefits you can obtain. It's just that this statue isn't that easy to climb. This time, I brought you here to experience it so that you can break through faster, so I won't climb up. Region Master Glaze said as she flew forward with him. Along the way, Yi Tianyun saw many cultivators around him, all flying towards the entrance. The entrance of this statue was on the legs of the Empyrean statue where it was sitting cross-legged. There was a small opening. The cultivation of these powerhouses who came are really not low. Yi Tianyun sized up the cultivators around him. They were all Lord of Heaven and above. Among them, there were loners whose cultivation was above the 6th or 7th stage of the God Monarch realm or even higher. There were also experts like the Region Lord Colored Glaze who brought people over. That was a God Monarch expert who brought a few Heaven Monarchs over. They didn't fight each other. They all flew in separately. Everyone's actions were the same. They came here to comprehend the power of a Empyrean, or to climb up. As there was no conflict of interest, they definitely wouldn't fight. Yes, there are still many cultivators who come here. Generally, there won't be any conflicts. Unless you deliberately provoke others, there won't be any problems. Region Master Glaze brought him down and soon landed at the entrance. This entrance wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. It was more than 100 feet high, similar to a huge city gate. In the entire huge statue, there was only this exit. As for the other exits, he hadn't seen them yet. They should be able to teleport out. Then, Region Master Glaze brought him in. After entering, he immediately felt the thick power of a Empyrean spreading inside. The power of a Empyrean came to the entrance and couldn't go out. It was firmly locked inside. The power of a Empyrean is not considered thick. Yi Tianyun immediately gave an evaluation. That's natural. The higher you go, the thicker the power of a Empyrean. You can't compare the situation in the way of Empyrean to this place. It's already very good that this place can let cultivators come in at will. If you want a thicker power of a Empyrean, you have to climb up. Region Master Colored Glaze explained as she pointed to the hole above her head. It was very simple to go up from here. You just had to go up through the entrance. There were no stairs. You just had to fly up. Yi Tianyun nodded. So that's how it was. He thought that it would be disappointing if the density was only this low. This was only the first level. It was good enough that there was an effect. At this time, on the first level, there were many Lord of Heaven meditating and cultivating. Some were alone, and some were sitting in groups and cultivating. This place was very spacious, so there was no need to worry about not having a place to sit. Not to mention meditating, they could even lie down. When the two of them came in, other than glancing in their direction, they couldn't be bothered with the rest. At every moment, there would be people coming in to cultivate. If everyone came in and looked up, there would be no need to cultivate. Yi Tianyun glanced around. The cultivators here were all wearing special masks. They were not willing to show their true faces. Over time, this place had probably become an unspoken rule. Chapter 1289. Let's go down. Glaze Region Master flew down with Yi Tianyun and found an empty space to sit down. Get used to it here first. We'll fly to the second level later, Glaze Region Master said. You've sensed it before. You can go up after familiarizing yourself with it. In order to better grasp it, you'd better stay here for a while. She sat down to meditate, not in a hurry. Anyway, she still had a lot of time. Yi Tianyun nodded. He suddenly thought of something and asked, have the elders been here before? They've all been here before. From time to time, they'll bring some outstanding disciples here to cultivate. However, only the more outstanding disciples will be brought over. Otherwise, they won't be able to comprehend anything, Glaze Region Master explained. Yi Tianyun had thought that he was the only one who had come. It turned out that the other elders had come. Thinking about it carefully, it was not a big secret. It was normal for the elders to know. Then, he did not say much. He closed his eyes and began to comprehend, absorbing the surrounding heavenly venerate power into his body. The heavenly venerate power was about the same. There was basically no difference. Therefore, it was not that absorbing the vast heavenly venerate power did not mean that the heavenly venerate power here could not be absorbed. It would cause conflict or something. There was no such thing at all. It was very casual absorption to strengthen one's own comprehension. The heavenly venerate power here could not enhance one's cultivation. Staying here was a kind of comprehension, a comprehension of the realm. Originally, the heavenly venerate power could not be absorbed as one's own energy. The difference between the two was too great. How could it be used as energy for cultivation? This was why they specially brought outstanding disciples here. If it were a very ordinary disciple of the Lord of Heaven, it would be meaningless to bring them here and bring them here to sit for a long time without comprehending anything. As Yi Tianyun carefully comprehended, he quickly comprehended a unique energy from the heavenly venerate power. It's the power of magical gold. Yi Tianyun immediately woke up from his comprehension. He had comprehended a special power from the heavenly venerate power. That was the power of magical gold. The power of magical gold was actually the power of metal, but it belonged to a higher level. Many attributes were based on the power of the 5 elements, undergoing a high level of evolution. Power of illusory gold was one of them. Its destructive power was much stronger than ordinary power of gold. Although the power of a heavenly venerate was the same, it contained the power of its owner, which was a different story. What they were comprehending here was the power of illusory gold. It didn't mean that he had to absorb the power of the illusory gold. Instead, he had to comprehend the aura of the illusory gold and convert it into his own power to sharpen himself. You comprehended it so quickly? Region Mistress Glaze was deeply shocked. She didn't expect that Yi Tianyun would comprehend it so quickly. He had just started to comprehend, but he immediately comprehended it. It felt like he had been here before. Otherwise, how would he know that the power of a heavenly venerate contained the power of magical gold? This required a very subtle comprehension to be comprehended. However, Yi Tianyun was able to comprehend it, and it was very fast too. It was faster than the speed when they first started. Even the glazed region master was ashamed of her inferiority. Yes, I have already comprehended it. Would I lie to you? Yi Tianyun shrugged helplessly. This was not difficult at all. He had already comprehended the power of a heavenly venerate before, so it was even easier to comprehend it here. The region mistress glaze revealed a suspicious look. You can't lie to me. Otherwise, you won't be able to cultivate on the second level and continue. Region mistress, don't you trust me too much? There doesn't seem to be any benefit in lying to you, right? Yi Tianyun felt helpless. It seemed like he still couldn't gain her trust. I just think it's too fast. It's a little exaggerated. The region mistress glaze coughed lightly. I believe you. Think about it carefully. You were able to complete the heavenly venerate way before. It shouldn't be a problem to comprehend it here. Yes, this place is much weaker than the heavenly venerate way. If I can't even comprehend this, how can I complete the heavenly venerate way? Yi Tianyun was very helpless. It was fast, but there was a foundation. Without this foundation, he would definitely have to spend more time to successfully comprehend it. The region mistress glaze smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly changed the topic. I'm overthinking this. Let's head to the second level now. The effect on the second level is much better than here. With that said, she took the lead and flew upwards. Yi Tianyun didn't say much and followed her to the second level. The others also flew over here. As long as they could comprehend the power of Golden Mirage, they could head to the second level. Soon, they entered the second level. The second level was no different from the lower level. It was empty and there was nothing. There was only one space here for them to comprehend. When they entered the second level, the power of heavenly venerate here was several times stronger than the lower level. As soon as Yi Tianyun arrived, the power of heavenly venerate in the surroundings immediately surged over and entered his body. The sharp power of Golden Mirage surged in just like that. Yi Tianyun quickly changed the power of the illusory gold into a gentle one, so that it wouldn't cause any harm to him. A scream came from the side. Those Lord of Heaven who had just flown up fell down like meteorites. Several golden rays shot out from their bodies. If they fell like that, even if they didn't die, they would be seriously injured. The main thing was that once the power of Golden Mirage couldn't be gently absorbed, it would quickly rush out and cause harm to the cultivators who came up. This was why the region mistress glaze emphasized that they had to comprehend it. Otherwise, they would end up like the cultivators just now and be immediately penetrated by the power of Golden Mirage. The region mistress glaze hurriedly looked over. Yi Tianyun was safe and sound. I said that I have already comprehended it. Yi Tianyun spread his hands. The region mistress glaze was concerned about him, so she would naturally emphasize this point. Some people were just trying to be brave, pretending to understand when they didn't. They didn't want to be a burden to their teammates, or they wanted to keep up with their teammates, so they said that they had comprehended it. Now it was immediately reflected. Not to mention being a burden to their teammates, they were already a scourge to their teammates. Now that they were injured, the result was even worse. Trying to be brave wasn't a good thing in this place. Then continue to comprehend it here. If you can continue to comprehend it, you will be able to climb up. The region mistress glaze's eyes were filled with excitement. Your talent is really amazing. It seems like bringing you here personally was the right choice. The other disciples of the heavenly spring divine realm were envious of the region mistress to bring them here personally. The region mistress glaze was very busy, so it was impossible for her to bring her disciple here personally. Chapter 1290. Yi Tianyun and Colored Glaze Region Master stayed on the second level to comprehend. The power of the Golden Mirage here was even denser. What Yi Tianyun needed to do now was to learn how to convert this power and make it his own. This was extremely easy for him, as he had trained in this aspect before. Hence, he easily comprehended it and could immediately head to the third level. Alright, I have comprehended it thoroughly and can convert the power of the Golden Mirage for my own use, Yi Tianyun said as he stood up. The power of the heavenly venerables here was ownerless, so it could be converted for his own use. Although he could not cultivate it, it was not a problem to directly erupt the power of the heavenly venerables that surged into his body. This time, Colored Glaze Region Master did not doubt him. Previously, Yi Tianyun had used his actions to prove that he had comprehended the power of the golden mirage here. This meant that he could continue moving forward and did not need to stay here all the time. This situation was a little beyond Colored Glaze Region Master's expectations. She did not expect Yi Tianyun to be so fast. Originally, she thought that it would be very good for Yi Tianyun to be able to comprehend it within a few months. Who knew that it would not take a few months? In just a few days, Yi Tianyun had already succeeded in comprehending it. If not for the precedent, she would really suspect whether Yi Tianyun was lying. It was not that there were no such people. The screams coming from the side were the best proof. If they forced their way up, the result would be serious injuries or death. Those who could survive, even if they were lucky, most of them would die directly. The sharp power of the golden mirage was enough to completely mince the internal organs. It was not a big deal if the internal organs were minced. The key was that if the soul was pierced, it would be deader than dead. For this reason, Colored Glaze Region Master constantly reminded him to avoid any accidents. Even if Yi Tianyun's physique was very strong, could it be stronger than the power of the heavenly venerables? Unless one reached the level of the heavenly venerables, there was no way to resist it. Only by comprehending the power of this place and comprehending this power would one be able to advance to the next level. This made everyone guess whether the heavenly venerables were recruiting disciples. After all, they were all trying to comprehend the power of illusory gold, so they couldn't help but wonder if they were recruiting disciples. No matter what, most people wanted to climb up first. Even if they couldn't become an Empyrean's disciple, they could at least obtain the corresponding treasures. Soon, they reached the third level. The Empyrean power here was several times stronger than before. Just like the second level, it increased in levels. Yi Tianyun immediately felt a surge of illusory gold power, like countless sharp blades, slicing at his head. Yi Tianyun immediately controlled the surging power of the magic gold. He controlled the brutal power of the magic gold, but in general, he was barely able to withstand it. He almost had to endure the 10,000 swords piercing soul. If his soul was weak, then his soul would be destroyed. The soul was the key. If the body was gone, it could be reconstructed. But if the soul was gone, then it was true death. When he arrived, the number of cultivators around him had greatly decreased. Among them, there were very few Lord of Heaven. Instead, there were quite a lot of divine lords. However, these divine lords' cultivation levels weren't high. They were only at the first or second level. They all stayed here to meditate. Although they could withstand it when they came up, it didn't mean that they could control it very well. They had to completely break in here before they dared to continue flying up. There are a lot less cultivators here. Yi Tianyun glanced around. It seemed like the difficulty level was really high. The first level might have tens of thousands of cultivators, but the second level had shrunk to 1,000 or 2, and the third level had shrunk to a few hundred. Of course, the higher you go, the more difficult it is. However, from the fourth level onwards, the changes are huge. You don't need to go up for now. With your cultivation level, it's already very impressive that you can reach this level. If you continue to go up, it's no longer as simple as meditating. Region Lord Colored Glaze gestured for him to meditate. I'll stand guard beside you. When you're done meditating, I'll bring you back. I can't go up. Yi Tianyun was stunned. It was over just like that. He wanted to continue climbing up the ladder. Your cultivation level is too low. If you want to continue to go up with me, you need to be at least at the later stage of Lord of Heaven or Sir God level. Your cultivation level is too low. After you're done meditating here, you can go back. Meditating on the power of celestial venerables here will be very helpful for your future cultivation, Region Lord Colored Glaze said. Yi Tianyun wanted to say something, but he decided not to. He'd better meditate first. After he was done meditating, he'd explain his situation to Region Lord Colored Glaze. Even if they were to go up together, he definitely wouldn't be a burden. Even though Region Lord Colored Glaze's cultivation level had already reached the peak of Sir God level, He wasn't afraid of Region Lord Colored Glaze if they were to fight. Then, he meditated and started meditating quickly. There was no time limit. He didn't want to waste any time. He still had a lot of things to do. While Yi Tianyun was meditating, there was a sudden vibration from above. Circles of light came from above. The Sir Gods' faces changed. They lifted their heads to look at the entrance above. They didn't know what was going on. It's the light of a rare treasure. Region Lord Colored Glaze's face changed. She quickly woke up from her meditation. Some of the other Sir Gods flew up without hesitation. They quickly disappeared at the entrance. These Sir Gods had undoubtedly comprehended it. However, they weren't in a hurry. Instead, they wanted to meditate for a while longer. Now that something had happened above, they immediately rushed up to check on the situation. They wouldn't stay there for long. Meditate here. Don't wander around. Usually, if you don't stir up trouble, no one will come over, Region Lord Colored Glaze said quickly. I might not be able to come back in a short period of time. Remember not to wander around. She didn't wait for Yi Tianyun's reply. She immediately flew up. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared from Yi Tianyun's sight. What's going on? Why is she so anxious? Yi Tianyun frowned. The circles of energy that were constantly emitting made him feel a little different. Especially the rare treasure light that Region Lord Colored Glaze mentioned. It was definitely not simple. However, he hadn't succeeded in comprehending it yet. He could only stay there and take a break. I have to quickly comprehend it. Otherwise, there's no way I can go up. Yi Tianyun closed his eyes again. He began to speed up his comprehension. He wanted to comprehend the power of magic gold. However, it wasn't difficult for him. The difficulty was higher than before. However, he had a stable foundation. He didn't need to worry about that. After a few days of continuous comprehension, he suddenly opened his eyes. 2 beams of light shot out. I've finally comprehended it. I'll go up to the 4th level now. Chapter 1291. After Yi Tianyun was done with his comprehension, he immediately flew to the entrance of the passageway leading to the 4th level. However, his actions were seen by many cultivators. Does this kid have a death wish? He only has the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven and he wants to go to the 4th level. Does he think that he can go to the 4th level just because he has comprehended it? Who cares? No one can stop him if he wants to die. We just have to cultivate properly. That's true. These people can't die off no matter how hard they try. Everyone thinks that they are invincible. The cultivators below started to mock and ridicule Yi Tianyun. They felt that he was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. He thought that he could go to the 4th level as he pleased just because he had comprehended it. If it were that easy, they would have gone up a long time ago. Why would they need to stay here and comprehend it? Yi Tianyun couldn't be bothered with them. What they said was true, but it didn't apply to him. He had always been prepared. He was not the kind of person who was unprepared, nor was he the kind of person who was incomparably arrogant. Soon, he entered the 4th level area. As soon as he entered, the familiar power of Golden Mirage surged over from all directions and entered his body. The power of Golden Mirage was undoubtedly stronger than the one below. It seemed like it was the same old trick. There were no changes. The power of Golden Mirage was still surging in. Yi Tianyun immediately controlled it and converted the overbearing power of Golden Mirage into a gentle power that he could control. The excess power was released slightly by him. Every cultivator who entered did the same unless they cultivated the power of Golden Mirage. Otherwise, what they needed to do was to constantly release the power of Golden Mirage. Otherwise, it would accumulate in their bodies and cause their bodies to explode when it reached a certain level. Yi Tianyun wanted to absorb the power of Golden Mirage. However, the power of Golden Mirage that contained the power of a heavenly venerate wasn't that easy to absorb. He needed a gentler power of Golden Mirage to be able to absorb it. Perhaps he would be able to absorb it if his comprehension of the power of Golden Mirage was at a higher level. However, this wasn't the key. He had just arrived, so the first thing he paid attention to wasn't the power of Golden Mirage around him. Instead, he sized up his surroundings. What came into view was not a spacious area, but a dense bamboo forest. However, this bamboo forest was no ordinary bamboo forest. Instead, it was a golden bamboo forest that was formed from the power of illusory gold. It was densely packed and even towered into the sky. It was no ordinary bamboo forest. Just by relying on his line of sight, he was immediately blocked by the dense bamboo forest. He couldn't see too far away. As for the powerful spiritual sense, it couldn't spread too far. At most, it could only spread a few miles. This was the territory of an upper-level Empyrean. Yi Tianyun's spiritual sense was very strong, but it was useless here. The majority of his strength was completely sealed by the power of an Empyrean, and he could only explore a small area. This bamboo forest created by the power of illusory gold, Yi Tianyun found it very strange. How could it be displayed in such a way? The surroundings were filled with the power of fantasy gold. This could be said to be a paradise for fantasy gold energy. When he came up, he immediately felt waves of fluctuations coming from the front. He didn't think too much about it. He immediately flew over there quickly to see what kind of treasure it was that made the glazed region master fly up impatiently. However, as soon as he entered the bamboo forest, the bamboo, which looked like sections, suddenly split into countless sections and crazily penetrated towards Yi Tianyun. He was surrounded inside and out, and there was no place to escape. Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. He immediately held the starry divine spear tightly in his hand and aimed it in front of him. He hacked a big hole in the bamboo that penetrated towards him. The phantom image behind him immediately rose up, and in the blink of an eye, he disappeared on the spot and fled forward at top speed. Even the illusory gold bamboo couldn't catch up with his crazy speed. Even if it suddenly attacked, Yi Tianyun could quickly dodge it, and it didn't even graze him. However, the illusory gold bamboo was very sharp. When the attack missed, it stabbed into the ground and penetrated several miles before stopping. The ground was also solidified by the power of illusory gold. If it could penetrate such a deep distance, it was enough to show how terrifying the bamboo was. No wonder people say that the power of the Lord of Heaven is courting death if they come up. Looking at this situation, they are indeed courting death. Yi Tianyun quickly dodged the illusory gold bamboo around him. With the combination of power and speed, one would need to be at least at the later stage of the Lord of Heaven to be able to dodge it easily. Otherwise, there was no way to dodge it at all. As for Sir God cultivation, it would be easier here. As Yi Tianyun dodged, he constantly refined the power of illusory gold and understood the deeper meaning within it. If he wanted to fly to a higher level, he had to completely understand the power of illusory gold on this level. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to enter the next level. If he forced his way in, he would naturally end up like those cultivators before him. His body would be penetrated by the power of illusory gold. As Yi Tianyun got closer, the range of the halo became larger and larger. It was obvious that he was ready to reach his destination. The exit is right in front. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He saw that the number of illusory gold bamboo in front of him was decreasing rapidly. This meant that the exit was right in front of him. His speed suddenly increased, and he drew a red shadow in the air. The attacks of the illusory gold bamboo behind him and beside him quickly missed. The illusory gold bamboo that penetrated the front was directly hit by him and turned into a golden powder. Finally, he rushed out of the illusory gold bamboo area and entered a spacious place, a teleportation portal. What he saw was not a rare treasure, but a teleportation portal. The teleportation portal kept emitting circles of light, which meant that the real destination was not here at all. It seems that the area where the rare treasure appears is on a higher level. Yi Tianyun frowned. He thought that he would see the rare treasure, but it was not on this level. The passageway to this level was not like the lower levels, where one only needed to fly high into the sky. Instead, one had to pass through a dangerous checkpoint before one could go to a higher level. Thinking about it, he really thought that he was too naive. How could the rare treasure appear on such a lower level? He didn't know how many levels there were. A treasure that even the Lioli region lord couldn't resist would definitely not be simple, and it would not appear on the lower levels. However, he wasn't in a hurry to enter. Instead, He meditated at the side and continued to understand the power of illusory gold. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to go up. Moreover, he wasn't the only one here. There were many Sir Gods who were here to understand. Chapter 1292. A Lord of Heaven slaughtered his way into their line of sight, shocking many divine lords. It was rare for a Lord of Heaven to slaughter his way over, especially alone. It was normal if he was led by an expert. Just the fact that he came alone was enough to shock them. But shock was shock. After casually sizing up Yi Tianyun, they could not be bothered with him. After all, what others did was their business. It had nothing to do with them. Hence, all of them continued to cultivate, ignoring Yi Tianyun. After Yi Tianyun came over, he glanced at them, then sat down to continue meditating. He had not completely comprehended it, so he naturally needed to follow and comprehend it. The others did not come over to make things difficult for him. As long as there was no conflict of interest, no one would bother with him. Especially since he charged over alone, it proved that he was quite capable. If there was no problem, no one would bother with him. They all needed to busy themselves with their own matters. They were all anxious to comprehend it so that they could fly to a higher level. The light of this treasure had been affecting them, making them want to go up and explore. Who knew, they might be able to earn a fortune? This was the territory of an upper heavenly venerable. Any random treasure was enough to make them covet it. Just as Yi Tianyun thought that everything was fine, a cold voice suddenly sounded in his ear. "Brat, hand it over obediently. You must have some sort of treasure to be able to kill your way here alone, right? Lend us one or two to play with. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." Yi Tianyun opened his eyes and saw 3 second and 3rd level divine lord cultivators surrounding him. Didn't they say that if he did not provoke others, others would ignore him? Seems like there are still many greedy people. Yi Tianyun immediately knew why. Because he had charged over alone, and his cultivation was at the level of a Lord of Heaven. In their opinion, he definitely relied on some treasure. Otherwise, he would have died along the way. Hence, what they coveted was naturally Yi Tianyun's treasure. When the other divine lords looked over, their eyes were filled with schadenfreude. This was the outcome of being alone. Unless one's cultivation was relatively high, they would definitely be bullied by others. "Don't disturb my enlightenment," Yi Tianyun replied indifferently. "Yo, you're quite arrogant. Do you think you're invincible just because you passed through the illusory golden bamboo forest? Big brother, what's the point of talking so much with him? Let's just kill him and snatch his things to see what's so good about them. Even if we can't go up, we can still make a fortune." That's right. There's no need to be polite with him. He's just the Lord of Heaven. What can he do? The 3 god monarchs were confident that they could suppress Yi Tianyun. That was because this was an attempt. There was no way to make up for a large leap in cultivation level. Skipping realms could still make up for it, but skipping realms wasn't a good thing. It was a pity that Yi Tianyun was an existence that surpassed common sense. Ordinary divine lords were trash to him. Yi Tianyun's gaze turned cold. He took out the star's divine spear and stabbed it into the ground. "This is my treasure. Try taking a step forward if you can." A superior grade heavenly path weapon. Their eyes lit up. They didn't expect the Lord of Heaven to have a superior grade heavenly path weapon with many divine markings on it. This caused the eyes of the other divine lords to be filled with greed. Most of the divine lords had middle grade heavenly path treasures. There were very few superior grade heavenly path treasures. They didn't expect the Lord of Heaven to have a superior grade heavenly path weapon. He might even have more treasures. The other divine lords were tempted. They couldn't go up, but snatching some treasures back was a good choice. "Then I'll try taking a step forward. Let's see what you can do." One of the Sir Gods took a step forward and extended his hand to grab the starry divine spear. He wanted to snatch it away. When the divine monarch's palm was about to touch the spear, Yi Tianyun's eyes turned cold, and he stretched out his hand. The star divine spear turned into an arrow and pierced through the divine monarch, nailing him to the ground. The ground that was formed from the power of mirage was pierced through by the star's divine spear. "How dare you touch my weapon with your filthy hands?" Yi Tianyun stood up, grabbed the Star Divine Spear's shaft and pulled it upwards. The Divine Monarch didn't even have time to react before he was split in half. The violent power destroyed the Divine Lord to the point that not even dregs were left. The sudden change gave everyone a fright. A Divine Lord was killed just like that. You killed third brother. I'm going to kill you. The Divine Monarch next to Yi Tianyun roared and unleashed his Divine Monarch second-level power. He quickly took out a long sword and attacked Yi Tianyun. The attacks were like a rain of swords. There was nowhere to hide from the concentrated attacks. A Divine Lord was a Divine Lord. No matter how weak he was still a Divine Lord. The power of heaven and earth that he could use was shocking. He could control a large area. Yi Tianyun couldn't be bothered to take another look. He swung the Star's Divine Spear and ignored the rain of swords. He pierced through the rain of swords and shattered them. This power, he was shocked. He knew that they had kicked a metal plate, but it was too late. The Star's Divine Spear had pinned him to the ground. Just like his third brother, he was killed by Yi Tianyun's spear. With the power of a Divine Lord, he should be able to recover his physical body quickly. But against Yi Tianyun's violent energy, his recovery speed couldn't keep up. He was easily killed. Then, Yi Tianyun pulled out the Star's Divine Spear and looked coldly at the remaining Divine Lord. With just one look, the Divine Lord took a few steps back and looked at him in fear. You are still the power of the Lord of Heaven. You are hiding your strength. It is important whether I am hiding my strength or not. Those who offend me must die. Yi Tianyun didn't say much. Without hesitation, he swung his spear and attacked. In the blink of an eye, he pierced through the Divine Lord and turned into a pile of ashes. Then, he caught fire. The terrifying speed calmed the Divine Lords down. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. They couldn't move a single step. 3 Divine Lords were gone just like that. Killing them was as easy as drinking water. They died instantly. What terrifying power. It's not the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven, right? Is this the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven? I suspect that he is hiding his power. He might even have the power of a late-stage Divine Lord. That's right. If not, how could he be killed instantly? I don't believe that he is the Lord of Heaven. They didn't believe that a Lord of Heaven could easily kill a Divine Lord. Chapter 1293. Yi Tianyun sat back down to meditate. It made the Divine Lords look at each other and see the fear in each other's eyes. Thankfully, they were not rash or they would have been the ones to die. They could not even see Yi Tianyun's attack. They suspected that they were not on the same level. His cultivation level is concealed too well. After he calms down, it feels like he is the Lord of Heaven. He is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Let's see who dares to provoke him. When the time comes, he will take advantage of their carelessness and attack quickly. Who can stop him? Come to think of it, he definitely did not rely solely on treasures for him to be able to charge over alone. He definitely relied on his own abilities. It's best not to provoke him. Thankfully, I did not think too much. All of them had a lingering fear. His cultivation level was not much stronger than the 3 that had been instantly killed. They were instantly killed in a blink of an eye. Just thinking about it was horrifying. It felt like a Divine Lord was made of water. One strike and they would explode, turning them into a pool of stagnant water. Little did they know that Yi Tianyun was not concealing his cultivation level. He was the Lord of Heaven's cultivation level. It was just that they had mistakenly believed that Yi Tianyun was at the Divine Lord level. He was very satisfied that they were intimidated and did not continue to disturb him. This was the effect he wanted. His current goal was to rush up and put everything else aside. Almost there. Just a little more and I will be able to fully comprehend it. Yi Tianyun's comprehension was very fast. It was mainly because the difficulty was not high that he could comprehend it so quickly. While he was rapidly comprehending it, there was already an earth-shattering change in the 5th level. The light of the treasure was emitted from here. It was released circle after circle from the ball in front of him. It was a huge sphere that looked very strange. The main thing was that this huge sphere was formed from 10 small spheres, which then condensed into one big sphere. Each sphere was engraved with dense divine runes. As they were too far away, they could not see what they were. Many divine lords surrounded it in circles. No one dared to go down to take the sphere. It wasn't that they didn't want to take the ball, but if they went down, they would immediately be repelled by the ball. At the very least, they would be injured, and at the very least, they would die. I don't believe that I can't break this sphere. One of the late Divine Lord powerhouses clenched his teeth and rushed downwards. A thick layer of armor appeared around his body, able to withstand extremely strong attacks. However, just as he reached the bottom, the round ball suddenly blossomed with a dazzling light, and one of the 10 small balls immediately popped out. His speed was as fast as lightning. With a shua, he sent the late-stage god monarch flying. The originally sturdy armor was pierced through, leaving a large hole in it. Blood spurted out continuously, dyeing a large area red. After the cultivator was sent flying, he struggled to get up. His body looked fine, but in fact, his internal injuries were severe and he was in great pain. "How are you?" His companions quickly flew over and dragged him out. "The insides of my body are mostly destroyed. Fortunately, my soul wasn't injured." The cultivator gasped. The tearing pain made him unable to move. "So powerful? Your defensive power is quite strong. Even a middle-grade heavenly Dao weapon shouldn't be able to harm you in a short period of time. That ball is too powerful. The terrifying impact probably has the effect of a half-step heavenly venerable." The cultivator revealed a bitter smile. Previously, he thought that those cultivators were too weak and had been sent flying, unable to approach the ball. But after he tried it, he realized how terrifying it was. When the other cultivators saw this, their expressions changed. This cultivator was from the giant rock race, and his defensive power was definitely top-notch. But such a strong defense was still unable to withstand a single blow. It was truly terrifying. Region Lord Glazed watched from the side. She didn't make a move, but watched their actions from the side. She wasn't a reckless person. Someone who could sit on the position of Region Lord was definitely not simple. "This treasure is so amazing. I'm afraid it's at the level of an Empyrean spirit treasure, right?" Region Lord Glazed looked at the ball carefully. All 10 of the balls could attack. When she came up, it was already here. This ball should have fallen from the sky and directly smashed a big hole in the ground. If they wanted to get it, they had to run down. But if they ran down, they would be attacked by this ball, and they had no idea how to get it. It could be said that there was a treasure, but there was no way to get it. They were at a loss. Just when they thought they were going to stare at it, suddenly, this huge ball instantly split into 10 balls and penetrated in all directions. With a swoosh, they disappeared into the surrounding forest. Coincidentally, one of them flew in the direction of Region Lord Glazed. Region Lord Glazed's eyes lit up, and she quickly turned and chased after the light. Her speed was amazing. She turned into a blue light and rushed straight ahead. She immediately displayed the power of a peak Divine Lord. In the blink of an eye, she chased in the direction of the ball. Then, there was a loud boom in front of her. Obviously, the ball had smashed into the ground. Region Lord Glazed quickly flew over and saw that the small ball had smashed into the ground, creating another big hole. She rushed over and picked up the small ball. She looked at it carefully and realized that there was a number 8 engraved on it. This meant that this ball might be the number 8 ball. She didn't know what to use it for, but she knew it definitely wasn't that simple. She immediately kept it and prepared to leave. Just as she was about to leave, many Divine Lord experts surged in from all directions. Among them, there was no lack of Divine Lord level 7 or 8. Some of their cultivations weren't as good as hers, but they had the advantage in numbers. Suddenly, there were more than 10 Divine Lords surrounding her, making it impenetrable. "This beauty, hand over the treasure obediently, and we will let you off." "No, hand it to us. If you hand it to us, we won't pursue it either." There were more than 10 people here, and there were 2 teams. They didn't like each other and were wary of each other's actions. Region Lord Glazed frowned. It seemed like it wasn't a good thing to be alone here. Swoosh. Region Lord Glazed didn't say anything more. She immediately turned into a water shadow and dashed forward. She knocked away a divine lord who was blocking her way. No one had expected that Region Lord Glazed would directly rush over. She didn't even bother to negotiate with them. Region Lord Glazed was a ruthless character. How could she give up the treasure so easily? If it was a heavenly venerable spiritual treasure, it would greatly increase the power of the heavenly spring divine realm. Go after her. They shouted angrily and quickly chased in the direction of Region Lord Glazed, not letting her escape. Chapter 1294. The colored glaze region master wasn't slow, but the cultivators chasing after her weren't slow either. They chased after her one after another, all fuming. They were supposed to have a good negotiation, but she actually escaped. Damn it, I didn't expect this woman to be so stubborn. She's alone and yet she's so bold. Wait and see how I'll deal with her after I catch her. Heh, if we don't let her see the power of us men, she won't know what kind of existence she's facing. Their expressions were somewhat dirty, especially when it came to conquering a woman with a high cultivation. To them, it was undoubtedly an even more exciting existence. The colored glaze region master in front could hear their words. Her beautiful eyes turned cold, and a light blue ribbon appeared in her hand. The next moment, she suddenly turned back. Originally, they were already fast enough. Now that they turned back, the distance between them instantly shortened by a large margin. At this time, the colored glaze region master quickly waved the ribbon and had them fling it over. Among them, the two god lord powerhouses with the louder mouths were immediately wrapped up by the ribbon and then violently strangled. They didn't even have time to scream before they were shredded by the blue ribbon. Then, the ribbon was quickly pulled back. There wasn't a single drop of blood on it. At the same time, she said coldly, "Your mouths are really stinky." The aura of a half-step heavenly venerate was immediately displayed, scaring those cultivators into dodging to the side, giving them a fright. Half-step heavenly venerate cultivation? They were all frightened. They thought that it was just a 4th or 5th level godlord cultivation. Who knew that it was the power of a half-step heavenly venerate, giving them a fright. Immediately, they divided into two groups. One group had 2 people killed, and their faces were gloomy. It seemed like there was no way to get back unless the other party joined forces. Join forces with us to subdue this woman. When the time comes, the ball will belong to you, and the rest of the treasures will belong to us. How about it? The one who was killed shouted. They didn't want to let the colored glaze region master go. The other group immediately smiled and said, "Deal." They didn't bargain much. Facing a half-step heavenly venerate existence, if they were to negotiate slowly, it was simply courting death. At the next moment, the other batch of 6 Sir God experts immediately spread out. They immediately unleashed their powerful powers and enveloped a large portion of the area. At the same time, their powers were connected, like a dense net, locking down the direction of the glazed region master's escape. Ceiling formation? Looks like you guys are pretty good, but it just so happens that we also know how to do it. The other group also immediately set up a ceiling formation, spreading out to a suitable distance. Following that, they all released their strongest power. When the invisible power linked together, it would form a shared power. Under the situation of sharing power, his strength would increase greatly, and he would be able to fight those of a higher level. The only flaw was that it was not flexible enough. For example, if they chased after him, they wouldn't be able to catch up. But in terms of encirclement, this was undoubtedly the best choice. The name of the ceiling formation was the best proof. If a few cultivators used it, the effect would not be very obvious. Now that almost 10 people used it, the power would be extraordinary. In the blink of an eye, they were ready. It was obvious that they had practiced this many times. Otherwise, they would not be so harmonious. If they were all connected together, the power would be even stronger. Fortunately, they were not together. Otherwise, the power would be multiplied. The ceiling formation was a low-grade heavenly Tao martial art. It was widely spread, and there were basically no restrictions. It could be said to be one of the cheapest low-grade heavenly Tao martial arts. Why was it so cheap? The main reason was that it required many people to practice and cooperate in order to bring out the effect. The most difficult part of cultivating it was the cooperation. Everyone needed to practice many times before the effect could be improved. The power could be said to be amazing. But because it required many people to cooperate, one person could not use it at all. Hence, the price was relatively low, and one could buy it with a few starstones. Now, after one group of people used it, the power directly surpassed the glazed region master's strength. They had the strength of a half-step heavenly venerable, or even stronger. As for the other group, even if 2 of them were killed, they also had the strength of a half-step heavenly venerable after using it. Their combined strength was the result of their combined cultivation. There were fewer people on this side, but their cultivation was at the 7th or 8th level Godlord level. After joining forces, their strength naturally would not be too bad. In a short time, the 2 of them immediately sealed off all the areas, causing the glazed region master's face to darken. It could be said that she did not even have the chance to mess up. The other party immediately gathered and used it. It was obvious that this was not the first time. If one wanted to jump levels to fight, the speed at which they gathered must be fast enough. If they slowly gathered and surrounded the other party, it would already be too late. After the 2 sides joined forces, the glazed region master immediately fell into a disadvantage. However, the glazed region master did not despair. It could be said that she did not hesitate at all. The moment they gathered, she had already attacked the side with the fewer people. The blue ribbons in her hands transformed into blue water splashes that crashed towards them. The surging water attribute power turned into wave after wave, crashing forward. Block her. They immediately attacked together. The combined strength of several people quickly condensed into one, turning into a giant palm that slapped over, slapping the surging waves and blue water splashes back. The first wave of attacks was evenly matched. Even the power of a half-step heavenly venerable could still be resisted. The purpose of researching this martial art was to do so. It was to jump levels to fight, not to let those with lower cultivation just sit and wait for death. Don't forget, there's still us. The group of people behind the glazed region master, who did not know when, had already attacked this side. The glazed region master's face darkened. Following a turn of her body, a ray of light emerged from her body, instantly turning her into an incomparably beautiful water goddess. Her power rose again. This is the power of the water goddess, suppression. Their faces darkened, and they immediately suppressed the greatest power. The 2 sides collided wildly. Boom! The glazed region master was knocked back. There was no way for her to escape. She had been firmly sealed here. When she was about to counterattack, the group of people behind her had already launched a sneak attack. They would not wait for the glazed region master to react before attacking. A pincer attack would allow them to maximize their advantage. Damn it! The glazed region master quickly turned around to block, but she was still half a beat too late. Her defense was not in time, and she was sent flying. After spinning several times in the air, she landed steadily on the ground. However, the blood at the corner of her mouth showed that she was injured, not unscathed. You want to escape by yourself? They sneered. Even a half-step heavenly venerable can't do it. The sealing array is specially designed to deal with people like you. The glazed region master frowned. Just as she was about to throw caution to the wind, a voice came from the side. I wonder what will happen if I join. A familiar voice came from the side. The glazed region master looked up and was immediately stunned. The person who walked over was none other than Yi Tianyun. She did not expect Yi Tianyun to appear here, which meant that she needed to comprehend 2 levels of the power of magical gold to be able to stand here. Chapter 1295. Yi Tianyun's appearance stunned the others. After a quick glance, they wondered if their eyes were playing tricks on them. It turned out to be a Lord of Heaven-level cultivator. What the hell? A Lord of Heaven has come to this level? They felt incredulous. From the 4th level onwards, it was not as simple as comprehending the power of magical gold. They had to withstand the terrifying attacks from all directions, wave after wave. It was difficult for a Lord of Heaven-level cultivator to come here. They might be able to withstand the attacks on the 4th level, but it was impossible for them to withstand the attacks on the 5th level. However, There was a Lord of Heaven standing in front of them. They wondered if their eyes were playing tricks on them. "Kid, don't be a hero. If you come any closer, it will be your turn," someone immediately shouted, signaling for Yi Tianyun to stay away. They did not dare to relax their sealing formation. It was usually effective against the cultivators inside. If it was used against those outside, they would have to change directions. However, if they changed directions, how would the Region Master Lioli deal with it? The Region Master Lioli's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. She quickly recovered. She felt the same as the others. Why would the Lord of Heaven appear here? The key was that there did not seem to be any problems. It was obvious that this place could not cause any harm to him. Is that so? I don't really want to care. However, the person you have trapped is my companion, so I need to take care of him. Yi Tianyun waved the starry divine spear in his hand. He sneered and said, "As long as I attack slightly, your sealing formation will be broken. It looks unbreakable, but that is only for those inside. A mere Lord of Heaven cultivator. I don't know how you came up, but it seems that you must have used the power of others to come up, right? If you have the ability, come closer and try. I guarantee that you will die first." They were not worried that a Lord of Heaven would sneak up on them. The main thing was that their cultivation was too low to cause any harm. As long as one of them could spare some strength to counterattack, the Lord of Heaven would be blasted to pieces. "Don't be impulsive. I can get out," Region Master Lioli said in a low voice. She had already begun to circulate her energy. As a Region Lord, she couldn't possibly only have this little bit of life-saving ability. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dared to come up here so casually. "I know you have some skills, but there are still many cultivators around who are eyeing you covetously." Yi Tianyun shrugged his shoulders. There were quite a number of cultivators staring at them. They didn't rush over as they wanted to reap the benefits. The 10 balls were released in different areas, attracting many cultivators to chase after them. It could be said that they were divided into 10 camps. Overall, the number of cultivators in each region was about the same. It was obviously not worth it for too many people to chase after a ball. Glay's Region Lord was startled. What Yi Shiwen said was true. She could also sense the covetous gazes from all directions. If she were to escape, she would soon be stopped by other cultivators. If she was stopped by this group of people, they might not make a move. After all, this group of cultivators who stopped her were not weak. If they were to explode, no one would be able to withstand them. But, just as she was about to say something, Yi Tianyun had already disappeared from the spot. Including the experts who trapped Glay's Region Lord, no one knew what happened. They only saw Yi Tianyun disappear from the spot. Poochie. A long spear pierced through one of the cultivators. With a flick to the side, the cultivator was split in half and died instantly. He wouldn't show any mercy to these cultivators. Showing mercy would only lead to his own death. First, Poochie. Second, Poochie. Third. Yi Tianyun's speed was astonishing. He went all out without any reservations. With the speed of the Phoenix power, he was so fast that they couldn't even see him clearly. In addition, he was wearing the evil Lord of Heaven suit, which increased his speed by 100 times. It could be said that he crushed their speed in all aspect. So what if he was a 7th-level godlord? So what if his combined strength was comparable to a half-step heavenly venerable? The biggest weakness of the sealing array was that it couldn't move quickly. Therefore, against a speed-type opponent, the sealing array would definitely break. What a fast speed. Quick, spread out. H's speed is too fast. All of them panicked. In the blink of an eye, 3 or 4 of their companions were killed. If they stayed here foolishly, they would be courting death. They thought that they could still fight back. Now, it seemed that they were wrong. This wasn't some Lord of Heaven, but a powerful God Lord. This speed and strength definitely had the cultivation of a late-stage God Lord. He killed them all. Want to escape? Can you escape? Yi Tianyun was on a killing spree. How could he miss out on so many delicious experience points? One spear killed a God Lord as easily as chopping melons and vegetables. Previously, it was hard to kill a God Lord. Now, it was a piece of cake. There was no pressure at all. In the blink of an eye, Yi Tianyun killed a few more god lords consecutively. Their companions were dead. Even if they wanted to take revenge, after seeing how fierce Yi Tianyun was, it would be good if they could survive, let alone take revenge. Run. Some of them burned their blood essence without hesitation, bursting out their greatest potential. Now, they didn't dare to hold back. They directly used all of their strength to run as fast as they could. When they were about to run, a blue figure floated over and blocked their way. He stretched out his hand and threw out a blue ribbon, trapping them. Before they could struggle, they were shredded by the blue ribbon. At the same time, a beautiful figure entered their sight. That person was Region Master Lioli. Do you think he's alone? When Region Master Lioli was fierce, he was an expert of a region. He could absolutely shake the world. To be able to become the Region Master of the Heavenly Spring Divine Realm, he couldn't be weak. We were wrong. Let us go, they could only beg for mercy. But before they could finish, a cold light pierced through them and killed them. That person was Yi Tianyun. With so many experience points, how could he let them go? If we let you go, we would be fools. After killing them, Yi Tianyun smiled at Region Master Lioli. Don't you think so? With so many people staring at them, he definitely wouldn't call out their real names. They looked like a pair of good friends chatting. That's right. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them, Region Master Lioli said coldly. If you want to take away my pearl, you have to see if you have the ability to do so. If you don't have the ability, go and find other pearls. Maybe you'll have a better chance. What they said was for the cultivators around them, so that they would give up on the idea. Chapter 1296. The strength that Yi Tianyun displayed was basically no different from a late-stage godlord. Especially that speed, it was even more amazing than a half-step heavenly venerable. The two of them together were not invincible. That sealing array was powerful, but the restrictions were too strong. Just Yi Tianyun's speed alone could kill a large number of them in seconds. The sealing array that the two camps displayed just now was powerful enough. It was basically comparable to the strength of a half-step heavenly venerable. But compared to a true half-step heavenly venerable, it was still a far cry. Just in terms of agility, it was already a big difference. Only those who were surrounded would be at a disadvantage. If there was a half-step Empyrean behind them, they would be completely annihilated. After the surrounding cultivators left, Region Master Lioli quickly flew over and looked him up and down. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. The reality was clearly in front of her, but she still felt that it was inconceivable. Yi Tianyun only had the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven, but the power that he erupted was actually equivalent to the cultivation of a god lord. It was not far from her. Especially his speed, it was faster than hers. Unless she erupted with all her strength, she would be much slower than Yi Tianyun. The two could not be compared. Your cultivation, what's going on? No, isn't it the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven? She said in horror. It is the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven. Can't you feel it, Region Master? Yi Tianyun said with a slight smile. It is indeed the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven. There really is no change. It is not the aura of a godlord, but the power that you displayed just now has already surpassed the level of the Lord of Heaven. It is far from the power that the Lord of Heaven can release. Region Master Lioli still felt that it was inconceivable. It was simply beyond her common sense. This may be related to the martial arts that I cultivate. Only then can I erupt with stronger power. Yi Tianyun explained with a smile. Then what is your cultivation now? Region Master Lioli asked. The Lord of Heaven is probably at the pinnacle. With a little more effort, he should be able to break through to the Godlord realm. Yi Tianyun said. However, this was not a lie. As long as he condensed the third planet, he would be able to break through immediately. Even if he didn't condense it, he could still break through. The peak of the Lord of Heaven? The colored glaze Region Master said in shock. Didn't you not break through to the Lord of Heaven before? How did you break through so quickly and reach the peak in such a short time? Previously, when Yi Tianyun said that he was going to break through, not too much time had passed. Even if a few years had passed, it was still a matter of time for them. Putting everything else aside, just breaking through from the first layer of the Lord of Heaven to the pinnacle in less than a few years was enough to shock her. It could be said that she was dumbfounded. She had never seen anyone so fast. If it were any other cultivator, it would take decades to break through to the next level, which was considered very fast. Anyway, with the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven, one's lifespan was already very long, at least tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. Now, Yi Tianyun had already broken through to the pinnacle in less than a few years. This shocked the experienced and knowledgeable region master Lioli. Well, I broke through while cultivating. Yi Tianyun smiled embarrassedly. Broke through while cultivating? What are you talking about? The region master Lioli felt a little speechless. Others cultivated with all their might and still could not break through to the Lord of Heaven's pinnacle cultivation. However, according to Yi Tianyun, he broke through casually. This was not something they could imagine. Cough, cough. You don't have to worry about this. Region Master, I wonder if I can work with you this way? I don't think this will be a burden to you, right? Yi Tianyun said with a smile. If this is a burden to me, then everyone is a burden to me. Region Master Lioli asked, why didn't you tell me before? I thought you had just broken through to the first level of the Lord of Heaven. You didn't ask. If you didn't ask, how could I tell you? Should I tell you that I have broken through to the pinnacle as soon as I see you? Moreover, you didn't even give me a chance to say it. You told me to comprehend the power of the magical gold, so I didn't have time to say it. Yi Tianyun spread his hands innocently, feeling very helpless. That's true. I didn't expect you to have such strength. It seems that the two of us can fight together. I was just thinking about whether or not to contact the elders to help. Now it seems that even if the elders come, they are not as strong as you. Region Master Lioli sighed. This was really too scary. The power that exploded just now made her heart palpitate. She had never seen such a ferocious Lord of Heaven before. Originally, he was still her junior, but now the power he exploded was comparable to her. Their status was basically the same. Region Master, I don't know what you got, but they have been chasing you relentlessly. Yi Tianyun had just arrived when he saw Region Master Lioli being besieged. He didn't know what had happened. Let's go hide over there for a while. Region Master Lioli led him to hide to the side. At the same time, she took out the pearl. There was a 8 carved on it. After she turned it around, there were some divine patterns on it, but these divine patterns were too profound. She couldn't understand them at all. This is the treasure that you got, Region Master? Yi Tianyun looked at the pearl. After carefully examining it, he activated the appraisal eye. 10 lives pearl, there are a total of 10 pearls. When gathered together, it is a celestial venerable spirit treasure. When separated, the effect is equal to a high-grade heavenly path treasure. Its power is amazing, and it can explode with extreme penetrating power. Each pearl contains a different power of the magical gold. He didn't expect this thing to be a celestial venerable spirit treasure. But when separated, it can only be regarded as a high-grade heavenly path treasure. Even so, only when gathered together could it be regarded as a real treasure. One could not be used at all. Moreover, this was an object with an owner. How could it be used so casually? Perhaps it could be used as a brick. Yes, this is the treasure I got. I don't know what it is used for, Region Master Lioli said in a low voice. Glazed Region Master said in a low voice, but it seems like it's a very important existence. Perhaps it's the key to reaching the 6th level. The key to reaching the 6th level can't be reached before? Yi Tianyun was puzzled. Yes, the 6th level can't be reached at all. The entrance is tightly shut. But the 5th level is enough for us to wander around blindly. There are many treasures here, provided that you can find them. Region Master Lioli looked around. The difference between the 5th and 4th level was that there was a large forest. These forests were formed by the power of the magical gold, but they were not as fierce as the 4th level. They would constantly attack. It was really like a tree staying there, not causing them any harm. Then let's go to the 6th level and try to see if we can enter. Yi Tianyun thought for a moment. There was no point in staying here. It was better to go to the 6th level. Chapter 1297. As the colored glaze region master flew over with Yi Tianyun, their speed suddenly soared. Yi Tianyun followed closely beside them, not leaving any trace of him falling behind. The colored glaze region master took a quick look. Sure enough, it wasn't an illusion. Yi Tianyun could really reach such a speed. The astonishing speed was far from what the Lord of Heaven could compare with. This way, there was an excellent advantage, and that was to deceive the other party and lower their vigilance. When attacking, it would have the element of surprise. The entrance to the 6th floor is in front, the colored glaze region master reminded. Shortly after passing through a forest, a large door appeared before his eyes. This door looked extremely peculiar, with 10 grooves on it. This situation immediately reminded him of the name of the pearl, the 10 lives pearl. It was just enough to fit in 10 pearls. After stuffing the pearls in, the door should open. In front of this door, there were already many cultivators gathered. They were basically divided into 9 groups. They didn't look like good people, and their cultivation was tyrannical. Among them, there were a few who were half-step heavenly venerables. Although they were covered in masks, Yi Tianyun could immediately guess that these people must be the region masters of some celestial realm. Just like the colored glaze region master, they were here to search for treasures or to cultivate. They were stuck at the half-step heavenly venerables level, so they needed to absorb the power of a heavenly venerables and comprehend the power of a heavenly venerables. However, they couldn't go up, so they could only go around in circles on the 6th floor. Now that they had this special pearl, they immediately saw some hope. "Are you the owners of the pearl?" One of the strong men stepped forward. He had the power of a half-step heavenly venerables. As soon as he took a step forward, an incomparably tyrannical aura pressed down on them. This was to make the newcomers feel pressured. If they were the owners of the pearl, they should stay here obediently. If they weren't, they should hurry up and get lost. "That's right, we are the owners of the pearl." The colored glaze region master waved her hand and bounced the invisible pressure away. Everything looked so casual. "Your cultivation is not bad." Sir Godlu Yuan's gaze turned serious. When he saw Yi Tianyun's cultivation level, he frowned. He even brought a child of the Lord of Heaven level. Everyone here was a divine lord. There was no Lord of Heaven. The 6th floor no longer had anything to do with the Lord of Heaven, so he could go wherever he wanted. Coming here was a dead end. The 6th level did not seem to be dangerous, but it was actually filled with hidden dangers. It didn't seem as dangerous as the 4th floor, but before Yi Tianyun could reach it, he was attacked by the power of the illusory gold. The 6th level was the chaotic power of the illusory gold. It was gentle at times and violent at others. If one couldn't control it, one would be ruthlessly sliced by the power of the illusory gold. "This has nothing to do with you, right?" The region lord of colored glaze looked indifferent. She raised her eyes and glanced at the gate in front of her. "Compared to this, it's enough that we are the owners of the orb." "That's true." Sir Godlu Yuan stood to the side and said, "Now, all of us are owners of the orbs. I believe all of you can see this gate. According to the treasure, there are exactly 10 orbs. Just enough to stuff them in. If I want to stuff the gate full, the gate should open. Let's put it this way. Every owner of the orb should embed the orb one by one. The rest of you should stand further away. That should be fine, right?" The orbs had to be stuffed in. If they didn't, they wouldn't be able to open. Hence, if anyone wasn't willing to stuff the orbs in, the gate would never open. "We have no objections." "We have no objections either." All of them said that they had no objections. They were divided into 9 groups. There weren't many of them, about 3 or 4 of them. That was more or less enough. Being able to work together was the key, not the number. If there were too many of them, or if their cultivation levels were too low, or if they couldn't work together, it would be meaningless. None of them had any objections. The other 2 half-step heavenly venerables didn't have any objections. If the remaining 2 had any objections, they would undoubtedly be uncooperative. "I have no objections too." Region Master Colored Glaze didn't think much and immediately agreed. So many of them had agreed. If she didn't agree, she would be too cautious. After agreeing, Sir God Lu Yuan said in a deep voice, "Since I started it, I'll be the one to release it first." Then, Sir God Lu Yuan walked to the gate and took out the orbs to put them in order. There was a mark on the gate. For example, the one in his hand was 3. Hence, he had to put it in the number 3 groove. Soon after, he easily and perfectly stuffed it in. It was just the right fit. After Sir God Lu Yuan was done, he turned and returned to his camp. They were roughly 10 miles away from the gate. The range of 10 miles was very short. With their cultivation levels, they didn't even need a blink of an eye to reach it. Even so, as they were at the same distance, it would be reasonable for them to take back their items or do other things. With Sir God Lu Yuan taking the lead, there would be another person following. The 10 lives pearl was a good item. However, no matter how good it was, it might be of a higher level. To take the 10 lives pearl and run away was no doubt throwing away a watermelon to pick up a sesame seed. It was a huge loss. Plus, there were so many people watching. How could they run away after taking the item? Very soon, they took turns to put the orbs in. It was Region Master Colored Glaze's turn. She nodded at Yi Tianyun and went to the gate to put the orb in. After it was put in, the entire gate gave off a faint light. Then, the light became more and more dazzling. They couldn't help but squint their eyes. Region Master Colored Glaze followed the rules and quickly retreated to Yi Tianyun's side. No matter what, they had to stay 10 miles away. It was the rule that had been set earlier. After a while, the gate opened slowly. What came into sight wasn't any special environment but a space-time formation. No one knew where it led to. However, at that moment, Sir God Lu Yuan immediately rushed forward and came to the gate. He took down his own orb first. After he took down his own orb, he took another orb. He was about to snatch it. Once the gate opened, it would definitely be the time to snatch it. It wasn't just Sir God Lu Yuan. The moment the gate opened, everyone pounced forward and increased their speed to the maximum in order to snatch the 10 lives pearl. In terms of speed, all of you are too inexperienced. Sir God Lu Yuan sneered. He was so generous mainly because he was confident in his speed. After all, he had the rock bloodline. He had an absolute advantage in speed. Otherwise, why would he be so generous? I think you are too inexperienced. Chapter 1298. The one who snatched the 10 lives heavenly jewels from Sir God Lu Yuan was Yi Tianyun. When the door was opened, he rushed over quickly to snatch the 10 lives heavenly jewels. He could tell that they were a bunch of people with ulterior motives. They looked fair and just, but they didn't believe him when he said he was fair and just while wearing a mask. As expected, when he rushed over, Sir God Lu Yuan started snatching. Not only him, but the other Sir Gods also rushed over. However, their speed was too slow, much slower than Yi Tianyun and Lu Yuan Divine Lord, so they didn't even have the chance to snatch it, but Yi Tianyun and Lu Yuan Divine Lord had already snatched several of them. Put it down. A half-step Heavenly Master behind Yi Tianyun shouted loudly and tried to slap Yi Tianyun's face, but Yi Tianyun was stopped by a beautiful blue figure. She waved her ribbons in front of Yi Tianyun and collided with the palm. Peng! Both of them retreated. The one who protected Yi Tianyun was undoubtedly Glaze Region Master. Her speed wasn't as fast as Yi Tianyun and the rest, but she wasn't much slower than the other half-step Heavenly Masters. If you want to snatch his things, you have to ask me first. Glaze Region Master said coldly. The half-step Heavenly Master didn't say a word and immediately rushed to the side to snatch the next 10 lives heavenly jewels. If they continued to be long-winded, they might not even be able to earn a single one. As for the late-stage Sir God, it was tragic. When they arrived, there were only a few left. All of them had been snatched by Yi Tianyun and the rest. Without the cultivation of a half-step Heavenly Master, they were nothing here. They could only be at the bottom. From the beginning, they were just cannon fodder. They were just here to take a look. After Yi Tianyun snatched 5, he quickly returned to Glaze Region Master's side. He dragged Glaze Region Master and flew forward. Let's go. He didn't stay for long. There were so many experts here. If he stayed too long, he would be intercepted. By then, no matter how many pearls there were, they would still be snatched. The Glazed Region Lord did not struggle. She completely followed Yi Tianyun's actions and rushed into the door. It was the same for Sir God Lu Yuan and the rest. They had more or less gotten 1 or 2 10 lives heavenly jewels. However, Yi Tianyun had gotten the most. Sir God Lu Yuan had gotten 3. As he possessed the bloodline of rock, he could only get 3. It was a humiliation. Furthermore, he had lost to an expert of the Lord of Heaven. This was the greatest humiliation of all humiliation. The other 2 were taken by 2 half-step heavenly venerates. As for the other groups of people, they had nothing in their hands. However, they could only bite the bullet and rush into the dimensional rift together. Since they couldn't get any treasures, they could only rush into the dimensional rift together. Who knew when the void gate would close? Thus, if he could enter, he would hurry. When they entered, they immediately felt a terrifying pressure pressing down on them from all directions, making it difficult for them to breathe. This pressure is too strong. Let's go. They couldn't withstand it at all. They had to leave immediately. Even if they were late-stage Sir God, they couldn't stay there any longer. It was different from the power of golden mirage that they comprehended previously. The moment they entered, they felt a terrifying pressure. It was obviously an offensive power. It wasn't like the ownerless celestial venerate power from before. Some of them didn't believe it and continued to fly forward. What they saw wasn't a good place at all. It was filled with yellow sand. However, it wasn't any ordinary yellow sand. It was the golden sand that was condensed by the power of golden mirage. When it blew over, it was enough to lift their flesh. RRR. Just then, there was a scream. The Sir God who forced his way out was swept away by the golden sand and disappeared. There wasn't even a trace of blood. No one knew where he went. At least, they couldn't feel any signs of life. They were most likely dead. They died immediately after being swept by the golden sand tornado. Wasn't its power a little too terrifying? At that moment, many of the cultivators who had forced their way in noticed the situation of the cultivators who had come in first, especially those with 10 life heavenly jewels. They had a thick protective shield around their bodies that could protect them from any harm from the tornado. A gust of strong wind blew past. They only swayed a little. Apart from that, they didn't suffer any injuries. The 10 lives heavenly jewels were like the pass to the 6th level. Without it, there would be danger everywhere. Now, there were only 4 groups of cultivators who had the 10 lives heavenly jewels. The remaining 6 groups either fled or forced their way in. D*MN. The jewels have been snatched away. If we want to go in, we have to get the jewels. But how can we snatch the jewels? Our speed isn't as fast as theirs. Moreover, they have already entered. We can't catch up. Can we only return the way we came? D*MN. They were filled with indignation. Some of them were afraid of death, so they could only return the way they came. Otherwise, if they really died here, especially if the spacetime door closed, they wouldn't be able to get out. Some of them didn't plan to go back. They planned to first control the power of the golden mirage and adapt to the environment here. Just like before, as long as they could control the power of the golden mirage, it would be equivalent to becoming half the owner of this place. Just as they were considering, the spacetime door closed with a whoosh and could no longer be opened. Those cultivators who wanted to give it a try immediately revealed looks of despair in their eyes. No. They pounced towards the spacetime door, but what they pounced on was a sea of golden sand. There was nothing there. If they wanted to go back, they could only walk forward and find the exit. This was the tragedy of not having the 10 lives heavenly jewels. With the 10 lives heavenly jewels, the situation was much better. After Yi Tianyun and Glaze Region Master escaped in, they immediately felt the 10 lives heavenly jewels emit an endless stream of light to protect them. However, it was only to protect one person. Only by giving away one of the 10 lives heavenly jewels could they protect Glaze Region Master. This meant that 10 lives heavenly jewels could only protect one person. It couldn't be used in batches. Fortunately, you snatched more. Otherwise, only one person could enter. The environment here is too harsh. The power of the golden sand that blew over is comparable to an extremely powerful attack from a late-stage divine lord. Glaze Region Master observed the surroundings. They had already run into the vicinity of a sand dune. Leaning against the sand dune, they examined the surroundings. After entering a new environment, they had to examine the surroundings. There was no point in running around blindly. I know that this thing must be very important. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been left here and made us bring it in. Yi Tianyun smiled. Moreover, no matter what, these are all superior-grade heavenly Dao treasures. We definitely have to snatch them. Glaze Region Master rolled her eyes at him. After thinking for a moment, she said gratefully, "This time, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, I'm afraid I would have to turn back." Chapter 1299. What are you talking about? If you hadn't brought me here, I wouldn't have been able to come to such an interesting place. Yi Tianyun observed his surroundings. This area meant that he could find more treasures. Maybe he could even find the magical gold core. That way, his foundation for the next planet would be guaranteed. You don't have to call me Domain Lord. Just call me Azure, Azure Region Lord said with a smile. This. Yi Tianyun was stunned. His status had risen so quickly. Usually, only those who were at the same level of cultivation or friends would address each other in such a manner. Don't worry about it. I believe you know that people with similar cultivation levels call each other that way, right? Azure Region Lord said. Your cultivation level is only at the Lord of Heaven's level, but your overall level is comparable to mine. So, we can call each other friends. Strength was the most important thing. One moment, one might call someone an elder. The next moment, one might call oneself a senior. As long as one's cultivation level was high enough, the way they addressed each other could change at any time. If one's cultivation level was lower, they would call him senior. If one's cultivation level was similar, they would call him fellow cultivator. If one's cultivation level was higher, they would call him senior or lord. Here, only cultivation level mattered, not age. This was the principle of the accomplished are the teachers. Then I'll be so bold as to call you Sister Lioli. I can't just call you Lioli, Qin Wanru said. Yi Tianyun scratched his head in embarrassment. He had always called her that. Suddenly changing it was a bit awkward. Calling me elder sister Azure is not bad. I'll recognize you as my younger brother. Azure Region Lord squinted and smiled. She liked Yi Tianyun more and more. She didn't expect to find a treasure. She had found a peerless genius. Although she didn't know how he cultivated, she only cared about the results, not the process. As long as he could reach this level, the Heavenly Spring region would have more confidence. Speaking of which, where should we go next? Yi Tianyun looked around. Besides the Golden Desert, there was nothing else. Everything was barren. There were no road signs or signs. It was a dead end. If there were demonic beasts here, perhaps he could catch one or two and let them lead the way. He had done this kind of thing many times, but there was nothing here. It was empty. The only living beings were probably the cultivators who came in. The colored glaze region master turned her head and looked around. She frowned. I really don't know where to go. Without any instructions, it seems like we can only fly forward and take a look. The pearls in their hands did not have the slightest direction to speak of. They could only play the role of protection. Soon after, they began to fly aimlessly. As they flew, all they saw was the golden desert. Apart from that, there were no other changes. Occasionally, a golden sandstorm would attack them, causing them to sway in the wind. Fortunately, they had the protection of the pearl. Otherwise, they would have been in trouble. It seemed like there was no problem for the time being, but if they were to be trapped here for a long time, they would also face a huge problem, and that was that their energy would be depleted. Flying casually was a waste of energy, and maintaining the barrier released by the orb also required energy. Before this, it was impossible to use the pearl. However, after entering this place, it was possible to use the pearl, but it was only used to form a shield. Over time, without absorbing any energy, it would definitely run out of energy. This place was filled with the power of magical gold, but they could not absorb any of it, let alone replenish their energy. Unless they cultivated the power of magical gold, they would not be able to stay here for too long. Of course, they could not stay here for too long. It was calculated in terms of tens of thousands of years. They had many elixirs in their storage rings. After so many years, they did not have to worry about running out of energy. However, if they did not return for too long, the heavenly spring divine realm would definitely be in a mess. Yi Tianyun did not know if the teleportation godstone would be effective here. Anyway, teleportation would not work here. If they wanted to teleport out of this statue, they had to at least know where the exit line of the statue was. They had no clue, and they could not escape even if they wanted to. There is no change at all. It seems like we are really trapped here, the colored glaze region master said in a low voice. Yi Tianyun lowered his head to look at the pearl in his hand. He said indifferently, Sister Glaze, did you think of something when this thing appeared? Death. The colored glaze region master thought of something. That's right. Death. Yi Tianyun said in a low voice, for this thing to appear suddenly, it seems like the qualified cultivators are arranged to come in for the test. If they do not pass, this thing will descend to the 5th level again. At that time, the person who snatches it will be qualified to open the door and come in. According to what you said, only 10 people can come in to take the test, the colored glaze region master guessed. I think so. If all 10 people die, or all the participants die, then everything will have to start again. Yi Tianyun shook his head, that's the best explanation. It didn't appear all of a sudden, but because the previous group of contestants died, it only appeared now. This time, the colored glaze region master was silent. Thinking about it carefully, it was really like what Yi Tianyun said. It was not a treasure that fell from the sky, but a test for them. However, the maximum number of people was limited to 10. As for how many people would survive in the end, it was not clear. It seems like that should be the case. If we want to get the upper-level Celestial Master's treasure, we can only risk it. The colored glaze region master followed Yi Tianyun and continued to fly forward. Very soon, a few voices came into view. The other 3 batches of people were gathered together and they seemed to be discussing something. Among them, there were some Sir Gods and they were resisting the golden sand outside in pain. They did not have the 10 lives heavenly jewel, so they could only resist with their bodies. As soon as they appeared, the group of people focused their attention on them. At the same time, Sir God Lu Yuan sent a voice transmission to them, my 2 friends, I wonder if you could come over to discuss something. Yi Tianyun and the colored glaze region master looked at each other. In the end, they flew down. It was not a solution to just keep flying. When they went down, they focused their attention on Yi Tianyun. Many of the cultivators were jealous and they wanted Yi Tianyun to hand over the 10 lives heavenly jewel. They wanted to hide in a storage space or something like that. Later on, they realized that it was sealed and they could not enter at all. The items could be taken out, but people could not enter. This meant that it was impossible to avoid the rules. They could only use the 10 lives heavenly jewel to protect themselves. There was no other way. Chapter 1300. What do you want to talk about? The domain master stepped forward and asked. The others looked at the domain master. It seemed that the domain master had the right to speak, so they shifted their gazes back to her. It's simple. Can you lend us a few precious pearls? Our companions won't be able to bear it if this continues. One of the half-step heavenly venerables stepped forward. His name was Heaven-Ripping Divine Emperor. Although he was a half-step heavenly venerate, he was still a divine emperor. Hence, he had to be addressed as such. No. What does it have to do with us? If we don't have it, will you give it to us? The domain master retorted. If they were in her shoes, would they really give one to her? Don't even think about it. Even if you die, you won't give half a pearl. Why would she help someone who was not related to her? After helping, she might even stab them in the back. This kind of thing was not uncommon. Her words left them speechless. They didn't know how to refute. It's useless to take more. Can't you give us a few more? We'll give you a reward in exchange for it. We'll borrow it temporarily. Along the way, we can advance and retreat together. Isn't that great? Heaven-Ripping Divine Emperor said with a smile. Advance and retreat together? That's funny. If you want the precious pearls, that's not a problem. As long as you swear an oath, you'll advance and retreat together with us. You'll protect us and never attack us from behind. We'll have priority in choosing the treasures. As long as you swear an oath, we'll give you a precious pearl immediately, the domain master said sternly. Her words stunned heaven-ripping divine emperor. If he swore an oath like that, would he still need to play around? It was equivalent to being their bodyguard. This heaven-ripping divine emperor would never agree. He just wanted to test whether the domain master would believe him or not. Now it seemed that those who could enter were not fools, especially those who had cultivated to this level. How could they still be so stupid? You have nothing to say. If you don't agree, please shut up obediently, the domain master said coldly. Humph. Heaven-ripping divine emperor's eyes turned cold. How could he accept being scolded by a woman? Just as he was about to say something, Lu Yuan divine emperor stepped forward. That's enough, stop arguing. Now that all of you are gathered here, we can share the results of our discussion. The Lu Yuan divine lord stepped forward and advised, let's not talk about the orb. Let's talk about how to use the orb first. We've been circling around here for a long time, but we've found that we're just going in circles. We think that this should be an extremely high-end illusion, and we can't get out of here at all. After thinking about it, perhaps only these pearls can lead the way. If it's just one, it might not have any effect. If we take them all out, it might have the effect of leading the way. Sir God Lu Yuan's analysis was clear and logical, causing the eyes of the domain lord and the others to light up. They had to admit that this was indeed a possibility. If they did not cooperate, the 10 orbs would not be able to gather together, let alone open up a passageway. Although he didn't know if it would work, it seemed that this was the only chance. However, Divine Lord Lu Yuan appeared to be a nice guy, but he was very calculating and scheming behind the scenes. If one was not careful, they would be plotted against. This was just like when he opened the door earlier. At the beginning, he spoke clearly and innocently. Who would have thought that as soon as the door opened, he would immediately come to snatch the orbs? Even so, they still had to try. Otherwise, they would not know how to get out of here. The other half-step Heavenly Master had not spoken since the beginning. He acted alone, releasing a cold and gloomy aura all over his body, as if he was an ice sculpture. Without a doubt, he cultivated the ice attribute. Naturally, he would be cold and not good at talking. The Domain Lord and Yi Tianyun looked at each other, then nodded and said, "All right, let's give it a try." Immediately, they took out their orbs. Yi Tianyun and the others took out the most, a total of 5 orbs, which took up half of the total, making the others extremely jealous. However, they could only be jealous and did not dare to simply snatch them. Yi Tianyun's speed was obvious to all. Some of them could not catch up with him. Moreover, the Domain Lord was beside him. How could they dare to act rashly? After he took out his jewel, the others did the same. When all the jewel had been taken out, all the jewel suddenly resonated with each other. A beam of light spread out from each other to form a net of light. There's hope. Their eyes lit up. They did not expect it to be true. Only by doing this could they lead to the next route. Just as they were rejoicing in their hearts, the 10 pearls suddenly flew forward, breaking free from their hands and flying forward. Then, the 10 orbs gathered again, forming a huge orb. It was the heavenly venerate spiritual treasure, the 10 lives heavenly jewel. Suddenly, they lost their protection and felt a power that could tear everything apart, drill into their bodies. However, they could withstand it. They did not have time to check their own bodies and immediately chased after the 10 lives heavenly jewel. After this thing gathered together, it immediately flew forward at an extremely fast speed. It didn't wait for them at all and just flew forward on its own. Without a doubt, the 10 lives heavenly jewel was leading them to the next entrance. The prerequisite was that they could catch up and not get lost. Otherwise, all their efforts would be in vain. Not only would they lose their orbs, but they would also be trapped here. Quick, quick, quick. They wished they had an extra leg. Their speed was really too slow. The 10 lives heavenly jewel was really fast. It covered thousands of miles in an instant. Some divine sovereigns who were not fast enough fell behind immediately. In addition, they were constantly disturbed by the illusory gold power, so they could not keep up with their speed. At present, Only the 4 half-step heavenly venerates and Yi Tianyun could keep up with them. "You're still too slow. I'll take you with me." Yi Tianyun did not wait for the Glaze Territory Lord to react. He pulled her into his arms and the phoenix bloodline in his body immediately erupted. A huge phoenix phantom bloomed behind him. His speed suddenly increased by 300 times. In addition to the evil Lord of Heaven set on his body, his speed also increased. With a whoosh, the 3 half-step heavenly venerates were pulled apart, scaring them silly. F***CK. He can still be faster. Divine Sovereign Lu Yuan had already displayed the power of the Kuan-Peng bloodline. How could Yi Tianyun be faster than him? The Kuan-Peng bloodline was definitely faster than the Phoenix bloodline. However, Yi Tianyun directly increased his speed by 400 times. Even if his foundation was lower than theirs, he would still be faster than them under the 400 times berserk speed. However, he was only faster by a little and did not exceed them by much. This was the tragedy of having a low cultivation. Even so, they were still deeply shocked, including the Glaze Territory Lord. Chapter 1301. Yi Tianyun's speed was top-notch. He might not be able to pull away from them, but he was faster than them and could keep up with the speed of the 10 Lives Heavenly Jewel. At the same time, the golden sand swept over from all directions, surging more and more. At this time, the colored glaze region master waved the blue ribbon in her hand, forming a thick wall of ribbons around them, protecting them tightly. The golden sand that came over time and time again was rebounded back. Although the consumption was high, if they were too frugal, it would be courting death. The others were envious when they saw the situation. 2 people working together was better than 1 person. They had to run and block the golden sand at the same time. It was an extremely uncomfortable feeling, but they could only do so. Who would have thought that the 10 Lives Heavenly Jewel would suddenly run away, leaving them unprotected? Luckily, their cultivation levels were not low. Otherwise, they would have been swept away by the golden sand after running for a while. Those with high cultivation levels were still okay, but those with low cultivation levels were long gone. Half-step heavenly venerables couldn't even run with them. If they were any slower, they would be trapped here. If they couldn't find the 10 Lives Heavenly Jewel, they would all die here. Hence, no one cared about their companions. As for carrying them and running, that was too difficult. They weren't like Yi Tianyun, who could be so fast while carrying someone. If they carried someone, their speed would definitely be greatly reduced. Hence, they could only choose to give up. In such a harsh environment, they could either die together or live on their own. The key was that the people they brought along wouldn't be as capable as Glaze Region Lord, who could help to block the golden sand. With their strength, it would be good enough if they could protect themselves. How could they help? This was the cruel reality. The group of god lords gradually disappeared, left far behind, and finally merged with the golden sand. Luckily, we didn't let the other elders come, or we wouldn't be able to bring them along. Glaze Region Lord looked at the abandoned god lords without any sympathy. She just thought that if their elders came, they wouldn't be able to keep up. If the other elders came together, the best way would be for me to chase and then come back for you. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly and said, "There will always be a way. Only a heartless person would not consider such things." Glazed Region Lord was startled. She looked at Yi Tianyun and smiled, but didn't say anything. She believed that Yi Tianyun would do that, but it would be too troublesome. Following that, Yi Tianyun continued to rush forward with Glaze Region Lord in his arms. Along the way, all sorts of illusory gold powers attacked them. With the cooperation of Yi Tianyun and Glaze Region Lord, they blocked wave after wave of attacks. Without a doubt, this stage tested them on the impact of the power of illusory gold. Without protection, the difficulty increased exponentially. Plus, he didn't know where the end was. He just needed to keep following it. The 10 Lives Heavenly Jewels did not have any humanity in them at all. They simply charged forward without increasing their speed. However, just maintaining their original speed was more than enough to give them a hard time. They are really fast. If their cultivation levels were lower, they definitely wouldn't be able to catch up. Yi Tianyun said in a low voice, or rather, if they aren't half-step to heavenly venerables or have shocking speed, they would probably die along the way. Yes, this might be a form of screening. The jewels are qualified to enter, but whether they can completely possess the jewels is another matter. Glaze Region Lord shook her head and said, the later stages will definitely be more and more dangerous. No wonder there has been no news of anyone obtaining the Heavenly Venerate's inheritance. Just these tests alone are enough to make one fail. Yi Tianyun nodded. He didn't slow down at all as he continued to chase. Following closely behind him were Sir God Lu Yuan and the rest. They didn't fall too far behind. Their total distance was less than 100 meters. Yi Tianyun was faster than them, but not by much. Unless his cultivation level broke through again, then his speed would probably far surpass theirs. Imagine, if a first-level Sir God had a speed increase of 300 to 400 times, he would definitely be the fastest person below Sir God. In such a state, they chased for a few days before the 10 lives heavenly jewels entered a space. Yi Tianyun hugged Liuli Domain Lord and went inside without hesitation. The rest of the Sir Gods rushed in one after another. After they entered, the space-time door didn't last for too long. Very soon, it disappeared completely. After Yi Tianyun rushed in, he immediately felt that the environment in front of him had changed completely. What he saw was no longer a sea of gold, but towering trees and all sorts of spiritual flowers and spiritual herbs. The most crucial thing was that Glaze Region Lord, who was in his arms, had been teleported away for some unknown reason. Similarly, there was no one around. It seemed that she had been teleported away when she passed through the space-time door. It seems that they have separated to other places. Just as Yi Tianyun was thinking about what was going on, there was a ray of light above his head. He looked up and saw the 10 lives heavenly jewels floating in the air. With a bang, it exploded in the air. It turned into 10 rays of light that bloomed in all directions and landed in different places. What a scam. We have to look for these lousy things again. Yi Tianyun felt helpless. Although there weren't any rules, it seemed that they had to collect the 10 lives heavenly jewels. Otherwise, how were they going to proceed? Unless the 10 lives heavenly jewels disappeared. Now that they were scattered all over the place, there was no doubt that they had to search for them slowly. Forget it. Let's find Sister Glaze first. Yi Tianyun took out the evil spirit wheel and placed Glaze Region Lord's items in it. Then, there was a guiding force for him to search. Spiritual consciousness was useless here as it couldn't probe far. However, the effect of the evil spirit wheel was still there. He could still find people here. This level should be an attempt to separate us. But there's no point in that. Yi Tianyun quickly followed the guiding force and went to find Glaze Region Lord. With this thing in hand, he could easily find her. He didn't have to wander around blindly. Having one more person was better than fighting alone. Actually, he could do it alone. However, since Glaze Region Lord was here, they definitely had to move together. With his speed, he quickly approached the region where Glaze Region Lord was. There weren't any problems along the way. There was no danger, nor were there any demonic beasts attacking. Just when he thought that everything was fine, a petite demon fox suddenly rushed out in front of him. There was blue fur on her body and she looked very beautiful. As soon as she saw him, she attacked him without any hesitation. Yi Tianyun quickly dodged to the side. Then, the other party lashed out with a whip. The thick blue whip lashed over with enough power to split mountains and rivers. He quickly dodged at an even faster speed. At the same time, he observed where Glaze Region Lord was. However, the evil spirit wheel in his hand was pointed at this demon fox. Chapter 1302. Yi Tianyun was not in a hurry to make a move. The other party continued to attack fiercely. Every attack was so familiar. Although she was waving a long whip, the attack method was almost the same. After a slight change, he knew that she should be using a ribbon. Especially this demon fox, her fur was so beautiful, and it was light blue. Wasn't the colored glaze region master of the water attribute? The surface of her body would definitely have light blue fur, and it showed its characteristics. The key was the evil spirit wheel in her hand, which clearly pointed out that the demon fox in front of him was the colored glaze region master. The evil spirit wheel would not lie, which proved that the demon fox in front of him was the colored glaze region master. It seems that the illusion here is really scary. It clearly wants us to kill each other. It's fine if we are not in the same team, but if we are in the same team, it is killing each other. Yi Tianyun felt extremely shocked. He could not break such a powerful illusion. The colored glaze region master was even more confused. How could a trap set by an upper-level celestial lord be broken? It meant that he could not let the other party see what his true identity was. In the eyes of the colored glaze region master, what she saw was also a demon beast, constantly escaping in front of her, causing her to attack continuously. But no matter how she attacked, the other party's speed was faster by a beat, and it could avoid her attack. This made her anxious. She did not expect that the first battle she encountered when she just arrived here would be such an abnormal demon beast. There was nothing in front of her, and suddenly it came out, catching her unprepared. When she wanted to continue attacking, the demon beast in front of her suddenly took out a spear and quickly carved on the ground. She glanced at it casually and saw the words on it, "Don't attack, I am Yi Tianyun. You are Sister Glaze, right? What we see should be an illusion, to make us kill each other." The speed of carving was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, a pile of words was carved. For their cultivation, the speed of carving was quite shocking, and in the blink of an eye, a pile of words was carved. Perhaps the weapon and the appearance would change, but the words carved on the ground would not have any changes. No matter how deceptive the illusion was, it could only change the state and appearance of the weapon. When the colored glaze region master saw it, she was immediately stunned and stopped attacking. Illusion? Is this all an illusion? The glazed region mistress continued to carve a line of words on the ground. Then tell me, where did we come from and what happened recently? She wouldn't believe him immediately, so she had to ask a few more questions. As for the verbal communication, to the other party, it was actually equivalent to the roar of a demonic beast. "We're from the heavenly spring divine realm. Recently, you've scolded me, saying that it's not good for me to cultivate lightning power and that I should stop it." Yi Tianyun quickly drew on the ground what had happened during this period of time. After Glazed Region Master saw it, she immediately believed it. It was really an illusion. It seems that in this stage, apart from searching for the pearl, we also have to be wary of being attacked by our own people or others. Region Lord Colored Glaze continued to carve. Yi Tianyun nodded and also carved on the ground. Yes, as soon as they see a demon beast, they will immediately attack. There is no room for negotiation. If I hadn't dodged fast enough, I would have really died in Sister Lioli's hands. Region Lord Colored Glaze felt very embarrassed. She didn't know how Yi Tianyun found out, but it was true. How could they not attack when they first saw a demon beast? The content of this stage's test was really sinister. If Yi Tianyun wasn't fast enough to dodge, he would have died in the hands of his own people. This was the saddest thing. After such a long time, it turned out that they had mistakenly killed their own people. Now that we know, let's hurry and find the pearl. The pearl is the real key. Region Lord Colored Glaze wanted to leave as soon as possible. Right now, they had no way to break the illusion. They could only return to their original state after passing this stage. Yi Tianyun nodded, and the two of them immediately went to the locations where the 10 lives heavenly jewels were scattered. They roughly remembered where they should go. Originally, the place that Region Lord Colored Glaze was heading to was one of them. Soon, the two of them found the area where the 10 lives heavenly jewels had fallen. There was a big pit there, and the small pearl was lying there. Yi Tianyun quickly went down to retrieve it. After getting the pearl, he didn't let him return to his original state. It was as it should be, and there were no changes. After getting the first pearl, without much communication, they immediately went to look for the second pearl. Along the way, Yi Tianyun thought that this stage was really sinister. If there were 10 participants, it would definitely be an extremely tragic situation. No wonder they didn't succeed. Just this stage alone could cause many cultivators to be stuck here. If all 10 of them were on the same side, that would be the most terrifying thing. When they all collected the 10 pearls and returned to normal, they would then realize that they had killed their own people. By then, even if they passed, they would be in no mood at all. Soon, they went to the area where the second pearl was. Not long after, they easily found the second pearl. As there weren't many of them to begin with, it was very normal that it wasn't taken away immediately. After getting the second pearl, they didn't stay for long and quickly ran to the next destination. There was no way to fly here, as they were directly suppressed by an invisible force. They could only run. If they could fly freely, everything would become simple. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, there were sounds of fighting in front of them. Dense explosions kept spreading on the side. Yi Tianyun immediately knew that opponents must have encountered each other and that a big battle was about to break out. They didn't have the evil spirit wheel like Yi Tianyun, which could detect the other party's true body. If they started fighting immediately, unless they avoided each other and didn't attack each other, they would end up attacking each other like this. That's where the other pearl landed. There should be a dispute. Let's go find the other pearl now and not get involved in their fight. Yi Tianyun quickly carved a line of words on the ground. Glaze Region Lord nodded. There were a total of 10 pearls here, so they would definitely choose to take the other pearls first. Now that there were 2 half-step heavenly venerables fighting, it meant that there was only one left to find the pearl. This way, they would have more chances to find the pearl in advance. You guys fight one more round. It's best if you don't stop. Yi Tianyun sneered and quickly led Glaze Region Lord to the next area. From the looks of it, the most difficult part of this stage was the fight for the pearl between the participants. There was no other danger. Chapter 1303. Yi Tianyun and Colored Glaze Region Master quickly found the next location of the pearl. The way they found it was simple. They saw a big pit and it was definitely the location of the pearl. After they found it, they realized that there was nothing at the bottom. It proved that the pearl had been taken away. That was to be expected. Let's go to the next place. They didn't waste time and immediately headed to the next place. Soon, they found the next location of the pearl, but it was gone again. They didn't hesitate and continued to run. At the third location, it was gone again. They were shocked by the shocking speed of plundering. They didn't know who was so good at plundering to get 3 pearls in a row. However, if Yi Tianyun were to sprint and plunder instead of meeting up with Colored Glaze Region Master, he might be able to get 2 or 3 more pearls. To him, it was more important to find the person first and put the rest aside for now. That's fast. Let's hurry to the next place. Yi Tianyun thought for a while and hugged Colored Glaze Region Master. Then, he sprinted to the next place. This was undoubtedly faster. He had the advantage of speed. He would go faster if he could. This kid really doesn't know that men and women shouldn't touch each other. Colored Glaze Region Master rolled her eyes at him but didn't resist. She knew that she was too slow and Yi Tianyun wasn't willing to leave her behind to search for the pearl. She could only compromise. With Yi Tianyun's extremely fast speed, he soon arrived in front of the next big pit, and he finally saw the pearl. I can finally find a place that hasn't been taken. Yi Tianyun quickly went down and picked up the pearl. Just as he picked up the pearl, he felt a chill from the side. He looked up and realized that a figure had disappeared in front of him. It's the Sir God who cultivates in the ice attribute. Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes. He didn't expect the guy to be so fast. He believed that the first few pearls were collected by him. Let's hurry up and leave. The Sir God who cultivates ice attribute is searching for the pearl at high speed. Yi Tianyun continued to rush forward with Colored Glaze Region Master in his arms. His figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. He moved forward with extreme speed. Although the teleportation godstone could not be used, teleportation was not a problem. With a single teleportation, he arrived at the area ahead of him. The Glazed Region Lord was stunned. Just a moment ago, they were still standing at the big pit. How did they enter the forest the next moment? Yi Tianyun didn't explain anything. He just flew out, wanting to find the next orb before the other party arrived. After all, the pearls that landed on the ground were basically fixed in place and wouldn't move at all. The only thing that mattered was speed. If there were more cultivators, they might need to fight for it. But now, there were very few cultivators, and 2 of them were fighting, so it would be faster to find the pearls. Found it again. Yi Tianyun beamed with joy. When he saw that the pearls below weren't taken away, his eyes beamed with joy. Then, he went down to dig them out. Just as he dug them out, there was a dark blue figure above the big pit. When he saw the two figures below, he was shocked. D***it. Why are they faster than me? They didn't come up just now. The person was naturally Sir God Ice Sparrow, who possessed ice attribute physique. He wasn't slow. Previously, his running speed was neither fast nor slow, mainly because he wanted to show his weakness. Then, when he sped up with all his might, he was still slower by half a beat. He was so angry that he stomped his feet. Similarly, he could tell that the people in the big pit were definitely the cultivators from before. However, he didn't intend to attack them. Instead, he chose to leave and search for the next pearl. Since they were smart enough to search for the pearls, and there were two monsters, they were definitely cultivators who had teamed up. The next moment, he turned around and left quickly, heading to the next place. When Yi Tianyun saw him again, the corners of his lips curled into an arc compared to his speed. He was still too inexperienced. Then, he hugged Colored Glaze Area Master and teleported into the forest. Then, he ran towards his destination quickly. At that moment, he had 4 pearls. The 3 pits that he had encountered previously didn't have any. This meant that 7 pearls were gone, leaving him with 3 pearls. Among them, there were 2 troops that were fighting crazily. There was no doubt that they had found the pearls, which was why they were fighting. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't intend to fight. Instead, he wanted to search for the pearls first. As he ran at top speed, Yi Tianyun found the big pit of pearls again. There was a pearl lying firmly in the pit. He quickly went down to retrieve it. After a while, Sir God Ice Sparrow returned as scheduled. What's going on? Damn it, you ran faster than me again. This is impossible. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't leave this time. Instead, he stood above the big pit and stared at them. Similarly, Yi Tianyun stood below and looked at her. He didn't rush to take action. Lioli Domain Lord patted Yi Tianyun's shoulder and nodded lightly. Although she didn't say anything, her meaning was very simple. She wanted Yi Tianyun to hurry up and leave with her. Finding the treasure pearl was the most important thing right now. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he held her palm and transferred some energy to her palm. It was actually just a line of words. That way, there wouldn't be a need to write it on the ground. The pearls have been looted, Yi Tianyun wrote. How do you know? Colored Glaze Area Master asked curiously. This guy didn't leave immediately. This proves that he knows that the other 2 pearls have been taken. The other 2 Sir Gods would have taken 1 or 2 pearls, right? Yi Tianyun expressed his judgment. It was impossible that the other 2 Sir Gods were so weak. They must have been taken more or less. However, Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't start a conflict with them. If she had wanted to start a conflict, she would have definitely searched for the pearls first. Now that the pearls were gone, Sir God Ice Sparrow stood there and wasn't in a hurry to leave. After a while, he finally chose to leave. He didn't want to stay there. He didn't plan to have a conflict with Yi Tianyun. He had other plans. He left. Colored Glaze Area Master looked up and saw. Yes, let's go. We've been busy for half a day and we still have to get 5 pearls back. Yi Tianyun shook his head. He couldn't help but say that the test was really a trap. They had been running around blindly for half a day and they had only gotten 5 pearls back. It would be great if they could get 1 or 2 more. Then, they left the pit quickly and started looking for the exit. However, they couldn't find any traces of an exit even after walking around for a long time. Could it be that this test also needs to gather 10 pearls before it can be activated? Yi Tianyun thought about it and felt that it was a trap. If that was the case, they could either team up to gather the pearls again or snatch the other's pearls. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to advance to the next test. Chapter 1304. Just as Yi Tianyun thought it was still the same as before, the jewels in their hands suddenly gathered together and formed a miniature version of the 10 lives jewels. It was much smaller than before. After it gathered together, it emitted a beam of light that guided them forward. This made the 2 of them happy. It seemed that they did not need to find all the 10 lives jewels to find the entrance. Immediately, they quickly followed the guiding light. After searching for a long time, they finally walked out of the forest. What came into view was a huge stone door. There were 10 grooves on the stone door, and it looked no different from the ones they had seen before. Do we need so many jewels to open this door again? Yi Tianyun frowned. If that was the case, it would be meaningless to guide them here. Immediately, a beam of divine light descended and enveloped the two of them. In the next moment, both of them returned to their original state and could see each other's real bodies. The illusion effect is gone. Yi Tianyun's eyes brightened. It seemed that it was indeed different from what he had imagined. Yes, the illusion effect is finally gone. I just don't know how to operate it now. Colored Glaze Region Master looked at the door in front of them, not knowing what it meant. Just as they were thinking about what to do, a figure suddenly floated out of the door, attracting their attention. At the same time, all of them were on guard. Welcome, test takers. I am the device spirit of the 10,000 Gods Tower. You can just call me the Honorable Spirit. The Honorable Spirit was a benevolent-looking elder who smiled at them. The device spirit of the 10,000 Gods Tower? Yi Tianyun squinted his eyes. It seemed that they could finally meet a device spirit that knew something, instead of flying around like a fly. After exchanging glances with Colored Glaze Region Master, he said, Elder Honorable Spirit, I wonder if you can tell us what these tests mean. The cultivation of the Honorable Spirit was not weak. As a device spirit set up by an upper celestial lord, its cultivation was at the level of a lower celestial lord. Just this device spirit alone was enough to kill them in an instant. These are the rules set by the master to select disciples, so these tests were set up, the Honorable Spirit explained. As expected, Yi Tianyun had already guessed that this would be the case. As long as one was a senior, they would more or less want to choose an outstanding disciple to inherit their legacy. Unless it was a lone wolf, they would choose a disciple to inherit their legacy. They couldn't possibly let their martial arts be completely lost, right? Not to mention them, he himself might do the same in the future. Only by doing so would he be able to select outstanding disciples. If he couldn't even pass these tests, that would be too disappointing. However, it had to be said that these tests were too difficult. Those who passed the tests were probably all perverted, right? Especially when it involved killing each other's companions. Was this really recruiting disciples? Not recruiting enemies? He didn't refute it, but continued to ask, then what does it mean now? Do I need 10 orbs to open this door? That's not necessary. Instead, the door will be opened according to the number of pearls you've obtained. Different pearls will lead you to different places after opening the door. Naturally, the rewards you'll get will be different, explained the Venerable Spirit. There's such a thing. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. That meant that they didn't need to collect all the pearls. According to the number of pearls they had, the place they were going to should not be bad. However, it didn't take long before they were splashed with cold water. However, every time the door is opened, only one person can pass through. Don't try to barge in unless you can defeat me, explained the Honorable Spirit with a smile. Yi Tianyun frowned. If that was the case, they wouldn't be able to go to the same place. Different numbers of pearls would lead to different checkpoints. As for whether it would be easy or difficult, he didn't know. Now that they had 5 pearls, they couldn't divide them together, unless they gave up 1 pearl. However, if that was the case, the place they were going to would undoubtedly be very bad, and there wouldn't be many rewards. Senior Honorable Spirit, how do you define this? Is the more pearls the more difficult it is, or what? Asked Yi Tianyun. The more pearls, the lower the difficulty. If there is only 1 pearl, then the place we are going to is 9 out of 10 deaths and 1 out of 10 lives. The Honorable Spirit smiled and said, so I hope that you can collect more pearls. If you come over with 1 pearl, I think the result will definitely not be satisfactory. 9 out of 10 deaths and 1 out of 10 lives. Yi Tianyun was stunned. This was simply a huge trap. If 1 pearl was 9 out of 10 deaths and 1 out of 10 lives, then what about 2? At most, wouldn't it be 8 out of 10 deaths and 2 out of 10 lives? The difficulty was slightly lower. So, if we get all the pearls, there is basically no difficulty to speak of, asked Yi Tianyun. Something like that. If we get all the pearls and open this door, we will directly get the reward. There won't be any dangerous test, explained the Honorable Spirit. This is completely a trap. It is equivalent to killing everyone. Yi Tianyun frowned. The colored glaze region master's face didn't look too good either. He had to admit that these tests were really a trap. That's right. They want to kill us and let one person win in the end, or at least let a few people win. Otherwise, it will be meaningless, the colored glaze region master said. In this way, we will have too few pearls. Even if there are 3, the difficulty will be doubled. Yi Tianyun shook his head. According to the saying, 3 pearls were 7 out of 10 deaths and 3 out of 10 lives. There was a slightly higher chance of survival. They didn't know how difficult it was. Maybe it would be better if 2 people worked together. It meant that they needed 6 pearls. As long as there were 6, they would be able to go to the same area. They wouldn't say that in front of the Honorable Spirit. After all, it was their territory. How would they dare to talk about the Celestial Master? If he was unhappy, he could just slap them, and they would be dead for sure. Another tester is coming. The Honorable Spirit looked afar with a smile. Soon, Sir God-Ice Sparrow appeared in their line of sight. He had also used the pearls to come over. As long as all the pearls were collected, they would automatically lead the way. Or, with a slight instruction, they would lead the way. After Sir God-Ice Sparrow arrived, Sir God Lu Yuan arrived too. There didn't seem to be any problem. Finally, Sir God Skyripping arrived. However, Sir God Skyripping was disheveled. It was obvious that he had lost to Sir God Lu Yuan. Now that everyone was here, all of the 10 life heavenly jewels were gathered, which made Yi Tianyun's eyes flashed. Perhaps he would have to take 1 out of each of them to balance the situation. Chapter 1305. When the other cultivators arrived, they glared at each other, especially Sir God Skyripping and Sir God Lu Yuan. Sir God Skyripping's eyes were filled with hatred, as though he was unwilling to accept the outcome. Sir God-Ice Sparrow stared at Yi Tianyun and the rest, her eyes filled with unwillingness. All eyes were on Yi Tianyun. He knew that the reason the pearls could be taken away so quickly was definitely because of Yi Tianyun's speed. He had never expected Yi Tianyun's speed to be so fast. It was beyond his imagination. Participants, you are here, the honored spirit smiled. Then, the venerable spirit repeated the general situation to them, causing their expressions to change. Especially when they heard that a single orb passing through the gate meant that there was a slim chance of survival, their expressions didn't look too good. They didn't know what kind of cultivator the 9 out of 10 difficulty was aimed at, but it definitely wouldn't be simple. Sir Honored Spirit, this 9 out of 10 difficulty, what kind of cultivation level is it aimed at? Sir God Lu Yuan stood up and asked. For any cultivation level, unless your cultivation level is at the level of a middle-level celestial master, there will be different levels of difficulty according to the strength of your cultivation level. Hence, regardless of your cultivation level, you will be treated fairly. The honored spirit maintained a faint smile. What it said wasn't pleasant at all. Their faces changed. The truth was often cruel. That was the cruel truth. If they didn't have the pearls, they would die. They wouldn't think that they were absolutely invincible. Since the honored spirit had said so, there was no need to lie to them. Such a level would usually be designed to send stronger enemies. Basically, they would be fighting beyond their level. Otherwise, why would there be a 9 out of 10 difficulty? The 9 out of 10 difficulty would definitely be fighting beyond their level, or facing an extremely terrifying level of difficulty. Otherwise, with their half-step celestial master cultivation level, there wouldn't be any difficulty that would make them feel like they were about to die. Yi Tianyun almost laughed out loud. What was his favorite level? It was the level of difficulty that was determined according to cultivation level. A crazy damage mode with 64 times effect would be able to crush the opponent. If they needed to fight beyond their level, they would at most send a 4th or 5th level Sir God, which was trash to him. In that case, what else was there to say? He only needed 1 orb. Then, Sir God Lu Yuan and the others shifted their gazes to the others. Their gazes were filled with murderous intent. In this case, he had to get more pearls. Otherwise, he would be the one to die. You can't make a move here. Whoever makes a move will end up the same as death. The venerable spirit said such terrifying words with a smile on its face. These words caused them to calm down one by one, and the murderous aura that had originally emerged was immediately extinguished. Causing trouble in front of an Empyrean was really courting death. Senior Zunling, is there no other way to reduce the difficulty? Asked heaven-ripping Divine Lord. No, unless you continue to fight for the orb. They couldn't fight here, but that didn't mean they couldn't fight. They could have a competition and place a bet, or even a duel to the death. The premise is that both sides agree to it and can't force it, the honored spirit explained. Their eyes lit up and they all focused on Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun's cultivation was the lowest, so he was undoubtedly the easiest candidate to bully. He was fast, but no matter how fast he was, he couldn't escape when he was limited to a certain area. Kid, fight with me if you can. I have a pearl here. I'll bet with you. Heaven-ripping Divine Lord immediately took out a pearl. He only had one pearl with him, so he could only bet with one. Bet with me? That's too little. Kid, bet with me. I have two. Sir God Lu Yuan took out two pearls and gestured to Yi Tianyun to bet with him. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't say anything. Instead, she stood by the side. She was like herself, a man of few words. If you want to compete, compete with me. Just then, Colored Glaze Region Master stood up and stared at them coldly. How can you compete with someone with such a huge difference in cultivation? He seems to only have the cultivation of the Lord of Heaven, but I feel that his cultivation is not weak. He must have the cultivation of a Sir God, right? Moreover, you are a woman and he is a man. If you keep standing behind a woman, are you still a man? Sir God Lu Yuan provoked Yi Tianyun verbally so that he would fall into his trap. Such words were easy to set up. After all, if one didn't come out to fight, he was worse than a woman. In their opinion, Yi Tianyun's cultivation was definitely higher than the Lord of Heaven's. Who would believe that only the Lord of Heaven's cultivation was so fast? But it couldn't be high. From the beginning to the end, they hadn't seen Yi Tianyun fight. They believed that even if he wasn't weak, he wouldn't be that strong. I challenged him first. Heaven-ripping Divine Lord was anxious. If Yi Tianyun was killed, he wouldn't have a chance. The rest of them were half-step heavenly masters, so they didn't have much of an advantage. It's true that you challenged him, but you only have one pearl. Would he be willing to challenge you? Sir God Lu Yuan humphed coldly and turned to look at Yi Tianyun. He said in disdain, Kid, have you thought about it? Are you willing to hide behind a woman, or are you willing to fight me like a man? If you want to be a coward, hide behind and don't come out. Sir God Lu Yuan was good with his mouth. He had been a smooth talker since the beginning. Then, he used his mouth to provoke Yi Tianyun. Don't listen to him. Bet with me if you can, Colored Glaze Region Master said coldly. Cough, cough. That's enough. Yi Tianyun extended his hand and patted Colored Glaze Region Master's shoulder. He stood out and said, All right, since you said so, I'll bet with you. 2 pearls it is. Sir God Lu Yuan beamed with joy and smiled. That's more like a man. Then, he said to Venerable Spirit, Senior Venerable Spirit, he has agreed. Is that okay? Venerable Spirit nodded and turned to look at Yi Tianyun. Are you sure you want to fight with him? Yes, I'm sure. 2 pearls it is, Yi Tianyun said. Okay. Then, Venerable Spirit waved and they were enveloped in a divine light. The area was divided into a battlefield. As long as either party leaves the battlefield, it's your loss. Senior Venerable Spirit, fists and legs have no eyes. If I kill by mistake, is there a problem? Sir God Lu Yuan smiled and looked harmless. No problem. As long as it's a fight, life and death don't matter, Venerable Spirit said. Chapter 1306. Sir God Lu Yuan smiled happily. He turned to look at Yi Tianyun and said, My friend, fists and legs have no eyes. Even if our cultivation is not low, once we unleash our power, it will be hard for us to retract it. Hence, you'd better run away. Otherwise, don't blame me for being too harsh. He didn't mind Yi Tianyun running away immediately. His target was the 2 pearls anyway. Don't worry. I'd like to see if your fist or my speed is faster. Yi Tianyun smiled faintly. Sir God Lu Yuan's overall power wasn't weak. However, to him, it was just average. Sir God Lu Yuan wasn't considered the strongest half-step heavenly master. He could only be considered to be below average. As for Sir God Heaven Ripping, he was even weaker than Sir God Lu Yuan. It was undoubtedly easier to deal with Sir God Heaven Ripping. However, Sir God Heaven Ripping only had one pearl. How could he agree? Let's give it a try. Before he could finish his words, the shadow of Kuan Peng appeared behind Sir God Lu Yuan. The huge Kuan Peng soared in the void and instantly enveloped the entire area. As he spread his wings and soared, his speed was instantly raised to the maximum. He disappeared in the void and only an afterimage was left. His speed was much faster than before. It was obvious that he hadn't unleashed his full speed when he was chasing after 10 lives pearl. He had held back. What an idiot. Does he think he's the fastest? The fastest speed is naturally our Kuan Peng bloodline. We are the true king of speed. In the blink of an eye, Divine Lord Lu Yuan appeared behind Yi Tianyun and reached out his hand to pierce Yi Tianyun's back. Divine Lord Lu Yuan's hand turned into a sharp eagle claw that could even pierce through a heavenly Dao-grade weapon. Just as he thought he could kill Yi Tianyun easily, a star divine spear that was faster than him pierced through him. There was a unique power of thunder in the spear. When it was added to the star divine spear, its speed increased by another notch. Whoosh! When Sir God Lu Yuan attacked, the star divine spear pierced his body. Then, the domineering power nailed him to the ground. It's a pity that my speed is slightly faster than yours. Yi Tianyun smirked. Under the other party's fearful gaze, Yi Tianyun lifted the star divine spear in his hand and slashed Sir God Lu Yuan in half. The domineering power pierced through Sir God Lu Yuan's soul and split him in half. He died quickly. Destroying the soul was the most important thing. If the soul wasn't destroyed, it could still be reborn. Since this place allowed him to kill his opponents as he pleased, he naturally wouldn't hold back. Sir God Lu Yuan had wanted to kill Jian Wushuang. Hence, why would he show mercy? Now, it was a complete instant kill without any hesitation. Ding! Successfully killed Divine Emperor Lu Yuan. Reward, 700 EXP, 130 Crazy Point, 80 SP. Obtained Kuan Peng Bloodline, Rare, Kuan Peng Claw, Superior Grade Heavenly Dao, Kuan Peng Robe, Kuan Peng Bangle, Superior Grade Heavenly Dao. The Lord of Heaven, who was at the side, opened his mouth wide. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be so strong, and his heart couldn't help but tremble. Fortunately, he had fewer pearls, otherwise, he would have been the one to die. Too strong, this speed is too fast, how can it be faster? Divine Lord of Heaven Ripping Heavens was terrified. He felt that they weren't on the same level anymore. She also didn't expect Yi Tianyun to be faster. She only knew that Yi Tianyun had some confidence. Hence, they teamed up and fooled Sir God Lu Yuan a little to make him lower his guard. Now, it seemed that even if they didn't fool him, he could easily suppress Sir God Lu Yuan. Divine Lord Ice Sparrow squinted her eyes. There was no surprise in her eyes. Instead, she smiled faintly and said, as expected of someone who killed several Sir Gods in one go. If I hadn't seen him before, I might have really challenged him. Whoever challenges him is really an idiot. Lord of Heaven's cultivation? Who would believe? He had witnessed Yi Tianyun helping Liuli Domain Lord out of trouble and killing so many Sir Gods in one go. With such power, he didn't want to fight Yi Tianyun. He would rather fight Liuli Domain Lord. After Yi Tianyun killed him, he kept the 2 pearls and the treasures. He had obtained a half-step Celestial Master's treasures. One could imagine how bountiful it was. At the same time, he had obtained a huge pile of experience. He had even obtained the Kuan Peng bloodline. If he were to absorb it, his speed would definitely increase by a notch. Kuan Peng's speed was definitely top-notch. It was even more shocking than the Phoenix bloodline. If he hadn't controlled the power of lightning and mixed it into his attack to increase his speed, it definitely wouldn't be easy to deal with Sir God Lu Yuan. Plus, Sir God Lu Yuan had indeed let his guard down. He thought his speed was supreme. He didn't expect Yi Tianyun to hold back too. Then, Yi Tianyun came before Liuli Domain Lord and smiled. I didn't disappoint you, did I? Of course not. I didn't expect you to cultivate the power of lightning and add it to your attack. I was wrong about you. Lioli Domain Lord naturally saw the power of lightning that Yi Tianyun had exploded. It seemed that the power of lightning wasn't cultivated randomly. It could be added to one's attack. It's all in the past, Yi Tianyun smiled. He had been misunderstood many times anyway. He couldn't be bothered to explain. It would be better to use it as a trump card. Then, they had 7 pearls. The remaining 3 pearls were in the hands of the other 2. Yi Tianyun stood out and looked at the 2 of them. He said, "Who wants to continue to challenge me? I welcome you. The stakes will be the pearls in your hands." Sir God Heaven Ripping's face changed. He didn't dare to challenge Yi Tianyun anymore. However, if he didn't challenge him, it meant that he wouldn't be able to increase the number of pearls. In that case, the effect of a narrow escape was basically no different from death. Sir God Ice Sparrow, who was next to him, didn't say a word. She just stood at the side quietly. "Why? Don't you dare to challenge me, the Lord of Heaven? Didn't you shout happily earlier? Didn't you say that you wanted to challenge me? Now that your opponent is dead, it's your turn to challenge me," Yi Tianyun smiled. "Nonsense. How could you possibly be the Lord of Heaven? You are definitely at the level of a Sir God later stage. With your cultivation speed that I don't know how, even a half-step Heavenly Master isn't as fast as you," Sir God Heaven Ripping roared. Then, he pointed at Lioli Domain Lord and said, "I want to challenge you. I wonder if you are willing to fight with me." Chapter 1307. Glaze Region Lord smiled sweetly when she heard that the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord wanted to challenge her. Then, she stood up and smiled. "You're willing to challenge me, but I'm not willing to accept your challenge. What about you? Are you willing to challenge me once?" Glaze Region Lord did not accept the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord's challenge. Instead, she asked Ice Sparrow Divine Lord, "I'm not going to challenge you. I think 2 pearls are good enough. I don't need to earn too much." Ice Sparrow Divine Lord rarely spoke, but her words were so cowardly. The Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord was delighted. If Ice Sparrow Divine Lord refused, he would have a chance. It would be good enough if he could win once, let alone how many pearls he would win. If he killed Glaze Region Lord, the pearls she was wearing would belong to him. It seemed like he was only betting 1 pearl, but he was actually betting all the pearls. He had seen everything. Yi Tianyun had taken the pearls from Glaze Region Lord. After winning, he had given the pearls to Glaze Region Lord, which meant that the rest of the pearls were with Glaze Region Lord. "Alright, since you don't want to challenge me, I'll accept your challenge." Glaze Region Lord felt helpless. If Ice Sparrow Divine Lord did not agree, she could only accept the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord's challenge. "That's great." The Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord was so happy that he almost cheered. Then, he said to the spirit, "Senior, she has agreed. Can we start?" He wanted the spirit to start immediately, as he was worried that Glaze Region Lord would change her mind. It would be troublesome then. "Sure." The spirit waved its hand and the 2 of them were separated, forming a fighting ring. The Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord rushed over as soon as the fighting ring was formed. Sharp claws appeared on his hands, and his body enlarged rapidly, turning into a huge dragon leopard. He had dragon scales on his body and the astonishing explosive power of a leopard. His claws were extremely sharp, each of them comparable to a middle-grade Heavenly Dao level. This was their unique talent, which was extremely sharp claws. They could tear the world apart. Coupled with the power of the dragon blood, the tearing power was several times stronger. In the blink of an eye, the Heaven-Ripping Divine Lord had already arrived in front of the colored Glaze Region Lord. He swung his sharp claws down mercilessly and wanted to tear the colored Glaze Region Lord into pieces. The void in front of him was torn apart by his ferocious claw. It really felt like the sky was being torn apart. The seemingly ordinary grab had already frozen the space around the Glazed Region Lord. There was no chance for her to escape. "Die." Sir God Heaven Ripping looked ferocious. At the same time, he vented the anger in his heart. Previously, he had lost to Sir God Lu Yuan and he was unhappy. Now, it was different. Being able to kill a half-step Empyrean could prove his strength even more. The key was that he would be able to obtain quite a number of orbs, which would allow him to successfully pass this test. Colored Glaze Region Master's gaze turned cold. She was already prepared. She waved the blue ribbon in her hand quickly and it rolled towards the sharp claws of the heaven-ripping Divine Lord. When the ribbon met the sharp claws, logically speaking, it should be the ribbon that was torn to shreds. However, the sharp claws were quickly bound by the blue ribbon. In the blink of an eye, a large circle was wrapped around the claws. The originally violent attack suddenly became powerless. The tearing force had already become powerless. Oh no! Sir God Heaven-Ripping's expression changed. He wanted to reverse his attack hurriedly. He had not expected that his attack would be controlled so easily. He grabbed down violently, but it turned soft, without any strength at all. That was the scariest part. He couldn't exert any strength at all. It's too late. Glazed Region Lord's eyes emitted blue light. She waved the ribbon in her hand rapidly and it rolled towards her body along with her bound hand. Soon, it wrapped around half of her arm and fixed the heaven-ripping Divine Lord firmly. Break. Sir God Heaven-Ripping clenched his teeth and decisively cut off his arm. His body retreated rapidly and blood splattered everywhere. Glazed Region Lord waved the ribbon in her hand and the blood was reflected. Not a single drop of blood splashed on her body. However, Sir God Heaven-Ripping had escaped. When he felt that he couldn't break free, he had immediately chosen to cut off his arm. That was a decisive method. However, if he hadn't done that, he would have been bound inside and out by the ribbon. By then, he would have been strangled to death, let alone break free. The ribbon wasn't an ordinary treasure. It was a top-notch superior-grade heavenly path weapon. It was stronger than an ordinary superior-grade heavenly path weapon. Sir God Heaven-Ripping, who had cut off his arm, immediately started to stop the bleeding. At the same time, his severed arm started to regrow rapidly. It wasn't a difficult task for him. He would only need some time to regrow his severed arm. It was just that Glazed Region Lord's attack had shocked him. It was only then that he realized that he had fallen into a trap. Glazed Region Lord wasn't weak at all. She looked like a woman, but her fighting style was definitely different. She could restrain his power. Thinking about it carefully, she had so many jewels. Wouldn't it be a temptation for them to continue challenging her? In fact, that was indeed the case. If she had the jewels, they would definitely challenge her. No one would challenge Yi Tianyun. No one would want to challenge the King of Speed. Even Kuan Peng wasn't as fast as him. What was the point of competing? It was only then that he realized that he had fallen into a trap. As for Sir God Ice Sparrow, she obviously noticed that something was wrong. That was why she wouldn't challenge him. Glazed Region Lord didn't wait for him to think clearly. She took the initiative to attack. She waved the ribbon in her hand and instantly encircled the area like a thick city wall. Sir God Heaven-Ripping had nowhere to escape from such power. Blue Ice Strangle. Glazed Region Lord tightened her grip and the ribbons around her tightened rapidly. Sir God Heaven-Ripping couldn't escape even if he wanted to. He could only resist with all his might and charge towards Glazed Region Lord. However, this was Glazed Region Lord's territory right from the start. He had already lost. After 2 rounds of fierce attacks, Glazed Region Lord used the ribbon to trap him. Finally, Sir God Heaven-Ripping was tied up. With a hard pull, Sir God Heaven-Ripping exploded and turned into dust. Everything had been so easy. Her attack had restrained Sir God Heaven-Ripping. It wouldn't have been a problem for her to win this round. We won. Glazed Region Lord took the spoils and smiled as she walked to Yi Tianyun's side. Chapter 1308. The battle was won easily. Yi Tianyun knew that Glazed Region Master wasn't weak. She was strong. I relied on my advantage. If it was someone else, it wouldn't be so easy to deal with, Glazed Region Master said humbly. Glazed Region Master was also modest. She knew that what she was up against was exactly what she could restrain. Otherwise, it would be really troublesome. They looked at Sir God Ice Sparrow. Yi Tianyun smiled and said, "Which one of us would you like to challenge?" There was only Sir God Ice Sparrow left. Sir God Ice Sparrow didn't show off. No one knew how strong he really was. Maybe the appraisal I could tell a lot, But only when they fought would they know how strong he was. I said I'm not interested. 2 pearls will do. There's no need for too many. Sir God Ice Sparrow's face twitched. Actually, it wasn't that he didn't want more pearls. He saw that they were strong. If he messed around, he might be the one to die. The best way was not to challenge them. 2 pearls was too little. If he used them to open the door, it wouldn't be 9 out of 10, but 8 out of 10. Overall, it was bearable. If he were to fight against them, he would definitely die. Even if he surrendered and escaped, he would be trapped there. It was no different from death. All right. They were disappointed. They didn't accept Sir God Skyripping's challenge at first because they wanted to challenge Sir God Ice Sparrow. How could Sir God Ice Sparrow accept the challenge once they showed their shocking strength? She would definitely challenge those with more pearls. Even if Sir God Skyripping didn't dare to challenge later, there would at least be 9 pearls. Of course, the number wasn't bad either. There were 8 pearls. On average, each of them had 4 pearls. The effect was pretty good. It seems that you don't want to continue fighting? The honored spirit smiled and said, if so, you can distribute the pearls among yourselves. I'll emphasize again that the more pearls you have, the better the item will be. At the same time, the difficulty will be lower. On the other hand, the item will become worse and the difficulty will increase tremendously. Honored spirit, if we enter with 4 pearls, will we be assigned to the same place to experience the test? Yi Tianyun thought for a while and asked. No, both of you are in an independent space, so you cannot interfere with each other, said the venerable spirit. Is that so? Yi Tianyun frowned. This way, even if they all had 4 orbs, they wouldn't be able to go to the same place. They wouldn't be able to help each other. It's okay. Anyway, I'll take a little less. You take 5 and I'll take 3. This is a very reasonable distribution, Glazed Region Master suggested. She knew that Yi Tianyun had some ability, but it was still too difficult. It was better for her to side with Yi Tianyun. Yi Tianyun thought for a moment, then said, all right, I'll take 1 and you take 7. That's the best way to split it. What? Glazed Region Master was astonished. Even Ice Sparrow Divine Lord was dumbfounded after hearing that. The honored spirit smiled and said nothing. It was their business to make their choice and he would not meddle in it. Just like that. Sister Lioli, have you forgotten my abilities? Yi Tianyun smiled. Abilities? Glazed Region Master didn't quite understand what was going on, but she quickly understood what was going on. She had a look of realization on her face, but she still looked worried. But will it really be like that? Won't it be based on your previous performance to set the difficulty for you? The abilities that Yi Tianyun was talking about was the ability to fight beyond his level. With his current cultivation, it was impossible to arrange a half-step heavenly master for him. Even if it was arranged, he still had a chance to deal with it. What happened just now was the best performance. But according to the normal Lord of Heaven, arranging a 3rd or 4th level Divine Lord would be enough to easily kill him. Yi Tianyun calculated according to this loophole, and Glazed Region Master immediately reacted. But what she was worried about was whether it would be based on his previous performance. If that happened, it would not be an ordinary expert. It's okay. I believe it will be based on cultivation. It won't be too much. Yi Tianyun smiled. Previously, the Honorable Spirit said that it will be based on cultivation, not the previous situation. That's true. Glazed Region Master's eyes lit up, and her heart was set. If it was based on cultivation, Yi Tianyun would definitely be able to win easily. Since he could win easily, Yi Tianyun might as well give the rest of the orbs to Glazed Region Master. This way, he could also maximize the rewards. They might not be able to get 10 orbs, but they could at least get 7 orbs as a reward. The treasures left behind by an upper heavenly master were definitely extremely precious. After a moment of transmission, they immediately decided on what to choose. Then, Yi Tianyun took only 1 orb and stuffed it in the door. Senior Honorable Spirit, I have already chosen the difficulty. This is it. Yi Tianyun said. All right, I will start the difficulty now. He was too lazy to care about what the examinee chose. Anyway, whatever the examinee chose, whatever the master ordered him to do, he would do it. Rumble. Soon, the door slowly opened. Yi Tianyun looked back at Glazed Region Master and smiled. Very soon, we will meet again. I will wait for you. Glazed Region Master nodded and watched as Yi Tianyun stepped into the portal. Crazy, crazy, really crazy. You have so many orbs, but you don't use them. Instead, you are stepping into a dangerous situation. Sir God Ice Sparrow shook his head, but he did not think much about it. Soon, he took 2 orbs, put them in, opened the door, and left. Finally, it was Glazed Region Master's turn. She opened the door of the 7 orbs, and then stepped in. Everything quickly returned to its original state and returned to peace, as if nothing had happened. At the same time, the orbs were taken by the Honorable Spirit again. They could not take back the 10 orbs, so they could only return. The Honorable Spirit held the 10 lives orbs and slowly raised his head. This time, the speed of the restart is too fast. It is 10,000 years faster than before. Last time, it took 10,000 years. This time, it is over in just a few years. Then, he raised his hand and the 10 lives orbs disappeared in the air. The next moment, it appeared in the sky above the 4th level. Then, it fell hard and created a big pit on the ground. At the same time, the cultivators immediately sensed the situation above and exclaimed, "A treasure has appeared, a treasure has appeared." Chapter 1309. After Yi Tianyun stepped into the spacetime door, he appeared in another world the very next moment. In this world, there was nothing around him. It was pitch black and he couldn't see anything. This feeling was extremely helpless. There was nothing around him, not even a point of reference. His whole body was in a special space of nothingness. There was nothing and he didn't know where he was. Where exactly is this place? Yi Tianyun quickly spread out his spiritual consciousness to explore. However, his spiritual consciousness couldn't spread too far as it was firmly sealed in the vicinity. He had just entered but he didn't feel any dangerous aura. He was just tightly sealed in here and everything was so quiet. His surroundings were too ordinary and he didn't feel any danger. Is this what it feels like to have a narrow escape from death? Yi Tianyun looked around. This feeling of a narrow escape from death wasn't that real. When he felt that there was no danger, suddenly, a murderous vibe came from all around him and penetrated him without hesitation. Yi Tianyun felt an extreme sense of danger behind him. If he didn't dodge, he would die immediately. The next moment, his figure flashed and he disappeared from his original position. With a teleportation, he escaped from that sense of danger. He quickly turned around and saw that it was empty. There was nothing there. It was as if everything was just an illusion. There's nothing there. Yi Tianyun's pupils shrank and he shifted his gaze to the top. He used his spiritual consciousness to explore but he couldn't find anything strange. It could even be said that even when he used the appraisal eye, he still couldn't find anything strange. That's strange. There's nothing there. Yi Tianyun frowned and wondered if it was an illusion. However, when he wanted to continue exploring, suddenly, a murderous vibe came from behind him again. It came very quickly and very suddenly. This feeling was the same as before. It was terrifying. Immediately, his figure flashed and he disappeared from his original position. With another teleportation, he escaped from this area. Then, the murderous vibe disappeared again and he turned around at an even faster speed. This time, he didn't use his spiritual consciousness but used the appraisal eye to look around. Void Spirit has the ability to walk inside the void, can pass through the invisible, ordinary spiritual sense cannot detect, can assassinate people invisibly. His cultivation was at God Monarch level 5, and he specialized in assassination. So it's the Void Spirit. There's actually such a thing. Yi Tianyun finally knew what it was. It turned out to be the Void Spirit. Void Spirits were extremely rare, and they possessed a heaven-defying ability to walk within the void. This was equivalent to walking in another world, separated from the outside world by a layer of glass. The inside could see the outside, but the outside could not see the inside. This was the biggest difference between the two. It could be said that this was a heaven-defying ability that would cause most cultivators' expressions to change. He was simply the king of assassins. Unless one's spiritual sense was very heaven-defying, there was really no way to sense it. By the time they sensed it, they were already dead. The way to break it was actually very simple, and that was to break the void and shatter it. That way, the other party would be forced out. The void spirit was good at hiding. As long as the void was shattered, the other party would have nowhere to hide. This ability that it was so proud of would naturally be useless. The prerequisite was to have the power to shatter the void. Different regions of the void had different levels of firmness. The void here was a very strong void. It was not something that ordinary cultivators could shatter. As expected of the difficulty of 9 deaths and 1 life. It even gave out a void spirit, and the surrounding void is incomparably sturdy. The difference in cultivation is so great. If it was an ordinary cultivator who came in, he would definitely die. Yi Tianyun shook his head. No wonder it was called the difficulty of 9 deaths and 1 life. Just this alone was frighteningly difficult. However, everything was within his expectations. There was still some difficulty, but it did not exceed the scope of his expectations. Especially the other party's cultivation. God Monarch level 5 was indeed heaven-defying, but it was not a half-step heavenly venerable or even a heavenly venerable. Just this point alone was not a problem. To others, it was 9 deaths and 1 life, but to him, it was 10 lives. Soon, this feeling attacked him again. Suddenly, it came from the side. This time, Yi Tianyun did not dodge. Instead, he stood where he was, waiting for the killing intent to attack. He suddenly turned around, reached out, and stabbed the void. Clang! The sturdy void was like glass, broken by his poke. Then, he grabbed the sharp long sword. However, his palm was unharmed. The sturdy evil lord of Heavenset and the dragon god bloodline provided him with terrifying defensive power, allowing him to easily grab the other party's long sword. Get out! Yi Tianyun dragged the other party out. A phantom was dragged out by him. Before the other party could struggle, he smashed it down. With a dong, a large hole was punched through the other party's body. Pitch-black blood splattered everywhere. Looking closely, this void spirit was like a phantom. However, if it was hit, it would still bleed continuously. Your strength. The void spirit was in disbelief. He never thought that he could be killed in a second under such circumstances. Not only was his cultivation much higher than the other parties, but he was also hiding in the extremely sturdy void. It really was a level of 9 deaths and 1 life. The difficulty could be said to be abnormal to the extreme, but he was still crushed by Yi Tianyun. What's wrong with my strength? Yi Tianyun rubbed his ears and smiled faintly. Speaking of which, every time you say this, you always talk about my strength. Don't you have anything else to say? The words were exactly the same. It could only be said that because the ending was the same, the topic was definitely the same. The void spirit turned around and wanted to escape, but how could he outrun him with his speed? Immediately, Yi Tianyun quickly stepped over and crushed the void spirit with 1 foot. He didn't even bother to wait for the other party to escape, let alone let him go. For the time being, regardless of whether they are following orders or not, if he wants to pass this level, he must kill this guy. Ding, ding, successfully killed void spirit. Reward, 370 compressed EXP, 70 compressed crazy point, 50 compressed sin point. Reward, void bloodline, rare, void god art, low-grade heavenly Dao level martial art, void stone. Chapter 1310. So this is the difficulty of having a 90% chance of dying? It's really difficult. I wonder if there's a next stage. Yi Tianyun didn't know if there was a next stage. After all, this stage was already as difficult as ascending to the heavens. If his cultivation was a little higher, he might be able to obtain even stronger void spirits. Of course, it might not be void spirits, but existences of other realms. At the very least, he felt that this level of difficulty was at a 90% chance of dying. If there was a next stage, it would be too much of a trap. While he was guessing, his surroundings changed rapidly. In the void, there was a long passage that led to an unknown place. Yi Tianyun didn't think too much about it and directly walked forward. The passage under his feet was actually a stone path. There wasn't anything special about it. However, when he stood on it, he immediately felt that it was solid. It wasn't like the previous empty feeling where he couldn't feel anything under his feet. Looks like the exit is up ahead. Yi Qianyun continued to walk forward. Before he could walk far, the path in front of him was immediately cut off. The stone path under his feet had disappeared. There wasn't even a single brick. Just like before, there was only emptiness around him. However, there was a slight change this time. There was a door of light in front of him. It looked like an exit. He immediately flew towards the door of light. However, no matter how he flew, it was pointless. He couldn't get close to the door of light. Instead, the distance between him and the door was getting further and further. Spatial lock, I can't get close at all. Yi Qianyun frowned. This kind of spatial lock was very normal. Unless one's cultivation was heaven-defying, there was no way to break it. Based on his current situation, there was no way he could break this spatial lock. Don't tell me I have to stay here forever. Yi Qianyun looked around and finally shifted his gaze to the stone path behind him. He thought for a moment, then picked up the stone path from behind. I can really pick it up. It should be like this. Yi Qianyun held the stone path in front of him. When he threw it forward, it floated in the air. It was the same as the stone path behind him. They were all neatly aligned without the slightest bit of crookedness. Following that, he picked up the stone slabs one by one, threw them out one by one, and walked forward step by step. Now, they could really get close to the door of light. They didn't expect this to be a test of their wits. If he didn't use his brain, he would be like a headless fly, flying around aimlessly. However, when he thought about it carefully, it wasn't that difficult. It was just a little troublesome. He had to pick up the stone slabs and lay them down one by one. It was really troublesome. Although it was troublesome, at least there was no sense of death. This test also tests comprehension. Yi Qianyun was helpless. He laid down the stone slabs one by one and quickly walked to the light door. He lifted his foot and walked towards the light door, disappearing into the void. After Yi Qianyun entered, the door of light quickly closed and everything returned to normal. When he reappeared, he found himself in an open space. There were 3 stone tablets erected in front of him. 3 martial arts were written on them: Phantasmal Gold Divine Technique, Phantasmal Gold Void, and Phantasmal Gold Sky Absolute. Every single one of them was a high-tier Heaven's Path martial art, not an ordinary martial art. Congratulations, you have successfully passed the test of 9 deaths and 1 life. This is your reward. You can choose any martial art here. The figure of the venerable spirit flew out, still maintaining its smile. As the spirit of this place, the venerable spirit could naturally appear wherever it wanted. It could appear wherever it wanted. Everything was under his control. As long as they were inside the statue, he would be able to observe their every move. Nothing would escape his eyes. This is the reward. It looks quite generous. 1 orb can get you a high-grade heavenly path martial art. If you get 7 or 8 orbs, won't you get even better treasures? Although that was what Yi Qianyun said, he still felt that it was a bit too much. The difficulty was so high, and it only gave 1 martial art. It wasn't easy to get the orbs, but to pass these tests, the difficulty was really scary. No, I was actually lying to you before. If you really get a good treasure, the fewer the orbs, the better. The higher the difficulty, the better the treasure. If you have more orbs, the difficulty will indeed be lower, but the treasure will be less, and the grade will be lower. The venerable spirit said with a smile. Yi Qianyun was startled. He didn't expect it to be a lie. It was obvious that it wanted them to fight and get more orbs, lower the difficulty, and get more treasures. But I don't think these rewards are that good for passing this test. Yi Qianyun's face was stiff. A martial art was enough to make him go away. Ha ha ha, this is not good. Maybe you can only choose 1 martial art, but if you successfully cultivate any one of them, you can become the master's disciple. You can even become the master of this place and enjoy all the treasures. Do you think this reward is not good enough? The venerable spirit said with a smile. The other examinees who obtained other martial arts will not get this special honor after cultivating. It should be said that they need to continue the test in order to get this opportunity, so, It is more difficult for those who obtained the orbs to be selected. Yi Tianyun frowned. This was really a trap. It is not like that. It just needs to be tested a little more. Because of your comprehensive ability, you only need to cultivate this martial art and successfully reach the 3rd level. Then, you can become a disciple. The venerable spirit threw out an extremely tempting reward. I can become a disciple after reaching the 3rd level. Is it that simple? Yi Tianyun was surprised. It seemed that choosing one orb was not bad. The premise was that he could pass. If he could pass like this, then there was nothing to say. He was so fierce in fighting against those who were stronger than him. How could he not get a good reward? If this was not good, then what was good? This is not a simple thing. If you want to cultivate successfully, you need to go through a lot of training. But, if you can even get the most basic, you will at least have the qualification to become a disciple. The venerable spirit said with a smile. Yi Tianyun nodded and did not say anything. Anyway, he just needed to choose one to cultivate. I will choose this golden phantasm divine art. Yi Tianyun pointed to one of the martial arts and said, Golden phantasm divine art? Not bad. You have a good eye. This is the best martial art among the 3. The venerable spirit waved its hand and the other 2 stone tablets disappeared. Only the golden phantasm divine art was left. Now, you can sit here and cultivate. I hope you can understand this golden phantasm divine art as soon as possible. Chapter 13:11. Yi Tianyun immediately sat down to meditate. To be exact, he was constantly probing and analyzing this heavenly Tao level martial art. Martial arts were more difficult to understand, but it wasn't difficult for him. It was just a matter of time before he could successfully understand it. The appraisal I would analyze everything inside and out, and would be able to analyze everything that could be analyzed. This would allow him to better comprehend, and he wouldn't feel any discomfort. After a series of crazy analysis, he immediately succeeded in cultivating the 1st layer, and continued to cultivate the 2nd layer. In a short week, he successfully understood the 2nd level again. When he was ready to cultivate the 3rd level, he realized he was stuck here. I knew the 3rd level wouldn't be that easy. Otherwise, how could I become a personal disciple? Yi Tianyun shook his head. He was completely stuck here when he cultivated to the 3rd level. It wasn't that his analytical ability was too bad, but he needed a hard condition to continue cultivating. This hard condition was very simple. He had to cultivate the power of golden mirage and convert it into the power in his body. Only then could he cultivate to the 3rd level. The first 2 levels didn't need this hard condition, so it was easy to cultivate. This was the same as when he cultivated to become a divine lord. He needed 3 planets. He hadn't reached it yet, mainly because it wasn't easy to find them to absorb. If he wanted to cultivate successfully, he had to have the power of golden mirage. Either he could cultivate it, or he had to forcefully cultivate it. The latter was undoubtedly the most difficult. The power of golden mirage wasn't easy to cultivate. First, his body had to lean towards the metal attribute. Only then could he cultivate it successfully. Fortunately, Yi Tianyun's body didn't have to worry about this, so he could cultivate this attribute at will. If it was the glazed region lord, it would be too difficult. His body was originally of the water attribute. It wasn't a problem to forcefully cultivate the power of golden mirage, but it was too difficult to perfectly match it. But if he wanted to become a personal disciple, he had to do so. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to cultivate to the 3rd level. Looks like I have to find a place to cultivate this power of golden mirage. Yi Tianyun stood up. The venerated spirit stayed beside him and didn't choose to leave. Senior venerated spirit, can I go somewhere else to cultivate? There were so many places with dense mirage gold power here. Any one of them would be better than staying here. Yes, you can choose anywhere you want. You can go to most of the places in the 10,000 Gods Pagoda. The revered spirit waved its hand and images appeared in front of him. This included the previous trial checkpoints, which could be repeated. However, the places they would go would be the same as before, and there would still be the same dangers. You can go to most places. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. I wonder where my companion is now. He was more concerned about Lioli Region Master's current situation, and he didn't know if she had passed the test. She hasn't passed the test yet, but you can wait for her at the exit, the spirit explained. Still haven't passed the test? Yi Tianyun frowned. It had been so long, why hadn't he come out yet? Especially with 7 pearls, it shouldn't be too difficult. Yes, but don't worry. She's safe and won't be in any danger. I should say that she has passed the test, but she hasn't come out yet, the spirit said. I see. Yi Tianyun nodded. If that was the case, she should be getting her reward, comprehending something, or doing something else. He thought for a moment, then nodded and said, all right then, send me to her exit. The spirit did not say much. It waved its hand and Yi Tianyun disappeared on the spot. The next moment, he appeared in another area. When he appeared here, the surroundings were empty and there was no danger. In front of him was a special passage that led to an unknown place. However, there was indeed no danger here. This was the exit, so naturally, there wouldn't be any danger. Yi Tianyun did not leave. He sat on the ground and began to check his loot. Compared to this, he was more concerned about the bloodline that he had recently obtained. 2 amazing bloodlines, both of which were excellent. Kuanpeng bloodline and Void bloodline, huh? Yi Tianyun thought for a while and immediately used it without hesitation. This thing was different from other bloodlines. It could provide him with a lot of help. Ding, successfully used Kuanpeng bloodline. Kuanpeng bloodline, level 1 can greatly enhance one's speed. Currently, it has increased one's speed by 100 times. At the same time, it can enlarge one's body and turn into a giant Kuanpeng that soars in the sky. Ding, successfully used Void bloodline. Void bloodline, level 1 allows the user to enter the void. Different cultivation levels allow the user to enter different void worlds. At the same time, it has the power of the void. It can turn one's body into the void, rendering the opponent's attack ineffective. The effect increases as one's cultivation increases. He was very satisfied with the effects of the 2 bloodlines. At the same time, he was even more amazed by their effects. Kuanpeng's power was very brutal. It was only at level 1, but it could increase one's speed by 100 times. If it was upgraded to the maximum level, wouldn't it explode? Void bloodline was also not bad. It could enter the void and render the opponent's attack ineffective. It was basically an effect of invincibility. However, there was definitely a limit. If there was a huge difference in cultivation between the opponent and the opponent, he could still be killed with 1 punch. This was the same as Yi Tianyun before. Even if the opponent was a void spirit, he could still be killed with a single spear strike. As long as the level goes up, the effect will definitely be greatly improved. Let me see the experience. When he saw the required crazy point, he immediately took a deep breath. The next level of Kuanpeng bloodline directly requires 3000 crazy point. This is really crazy. Upgrading 1 level will cost a lot of crazy point, 3000 crazy point, although I can afford it, but it will definitely be a lot later. Yi Tianyun resisted the urge to upgrade. He now has a lot of crazy point, but he didn't dare to spend it casually. It's a few thousand at once. 2 levels and it's less than 6000. If he upgraded 1 or 2 more levels, he will have nothing left. He just waited for the time when he needed to upgrade. This is undoubtedly the best effect. Anyway, it's not difficult to upgrade, and he can use it immediately. I don't know if I will encounter another opponent who forced me to upgrade. Yi Tianyun thought of the evil spirit domain lord. He was really forced to upgrade crazily before. Immediately after he was ready, he began to absorb the power of fantasy gold around here. The concentration here is not high. The main thing is that he can wait for Liu Li Domain Lord to come out. Chapter 1312. Yi Tianyun sat on the spot to absorb the power of the golden magic. It was not difficult. It could even be said to be relatively simple. As he absorbed crazily, his body was quickly filled with the power of the golden magic, which flowed throughout his body. His whole body began to glow with a faint golden color. However, this was different from condensing a core, which was only absorbed into the body and converted for his own use. To condense a core, It was very difficult. Usually, the fastest way was to absorb the core and convert it for his own use. Yi Tianyun was not condensing a core now. He just wanted to absorb it for his own use, so that his body would have the power of the golden magic. When he wanted to continue absorbing, there was a sudden fluctuation. He quickly opened his eyes, revealing a strange smile. Then, his figure flashed, and he entered the void. There was not a crack in the void. It looked very normal. Then, a beautiful figure appeared in his sight. It was the colored glaze region master. After the colored glaze region master appeared, she looked energetic. There was nothing wrong with her. After coming out, she landed in this area. After looking around, she glanced at Yi Tianyun, but she did not find anything wrong with him. Yi Tianyun stayed in front of her, not moving at all. In the void, it was like he was separated by a layer of water. He could see the situation outside, but the situation inside was no different. It was just that this place was safer. It was like a special safe passage. For example, when it rained outside, there was no wind or rain in the void. He could even avoid some special attacks. Some were hard to avoid, such as attacks that could even tear the void. There was really no way to avoid them. She really can't find me. Yi Tianyun's eyes lit up. He was only at the first level, but he could make a half-step celestial master unable to find him. Of course, it was mainly because he did not move. Without moving, his aura did not fluctuate, so he naturally would not attract the colored glaze region master's attention. After coming out, the colored glaze region master found a place to meditate. She seemed to be thinking about something. Then, she turned her head to look at the exit behind her. After a few more glances, she did not look anymore. She stayed where she was and meditated. Yi Tianyun tried to walk over step by step, completely concealing his aura. However, when he moved, Glazed Region Master suddenly opened her eyes and stared in his direction. It was obvious that she had felt a strange fluctuation. Although he had concealed his aura, there would still be fluctuations, especially when facing a half-step Empyrean. Unless his void bloodline's grade increased, a half-step Empyrean would still be able to discover his existence. This time, Yi Tianyun immediately stopped moving and stood in place. The Lioli Region Master looked at them suspiciously, and then obediently closed her eyes. She didn't feel anything unusual. Yi Tianyun smiled in his heart. It seemed that he had only discovered a little fluctuation. Since his spiritual awareness couldn't detect anything, the colored glaze region lord thought that it was an illusion. Yi Tianyun continued to take a few steps forward. Suddenly, Lioli Domain Lord attacked him, and the blue ribbon directly passed through the area where Yi Tianyun was. The reality was that it passed in front of Yi Tianyun and could not touch him at all. He was inside the void, not outside. After the attack, the colored glaze region master did not find who she had attacked. She wondered, strange, was it an illusion? She did not stop. Instead, she stared at the area where Yi Tianyun was. After staring for a long time, she fiercely threw out the blue ribbon in her hand. It turned into a long spear and pierced towards him. Dong! The void was directly pierced, and the attack was really coming towards Yi Tianyun. A cold light flashed in Yi Tianyun's eyes. He quickly dodged to the side and stepped out of the void. Sister Glaze, wait, it's me. Yi Tianyun smiled and walked out. When the colored glaze region master saw him, she was surprised and happy. Boy, you actually scared me. Have you passed? It's rare that I was worried about you. Who knew that you would play tricks on me? Ahem, I was just teasing you. I didn't mean anything else. Yi Tianyun smiled. If you didn't mean anything else, then what did you mean? I was so worried about you. The colored glaze region master said with a straight face. Sister Glaze, this. I didn't do it on purpose. Yi Tianyun scratched his head awkwardly. He did not know what to say. Phut. All right, I won't tease you anymore. Who asked you to scare people? The colored glaze region master smiled. Speaking of which, what martial art was that? You could actually hide in the void. This reminds me of the void spirits. They have the ability to enter the void. You can also enter the void. It is really surprising. This is not a martial art. It is the ability of the void spirits. That is why I can enter the void. Yi Tianyun said with a smile. You obtained the ability of the void spirits. The colored glaze region master covered her mouth in shock. Is this your reward for passing? You can say that. Yi Tianyun could not say that it was from killing the void spirits. It was more appropriate to say that it was the reward here. This reward is amazing. How did you do it? Didn't they say that the fewer the orbs, the worse the reward? The colored glaze region master shook her head. Then, Yi Tianyun roughly explained what happened. After the colored glaze region master heard it, she said in shock, there is such a thing. It seems like it was all a lie. No wonder my reward was so ordinary. It was only a mid-rank Heaven's Path martial art. I thought that only 8 or 9 orbs or more would be able to get a better reward. It turns out that the fewer orbs, the better the reward. But my difficulty was not high. I passed it relatively easily. That's right. We were all lied to. Yi Tianyun shrugged helplessly. While they were talking, the Zun spirit suddenly appeared and said with a smile, congratulations on passing the test. Since you passed the test in the 7th stage, if you want to be selected as a direct disciple, you must first pass 2 stages before you can be selected. Yi Tianyun's eyes narrowed. It was indeed a trap. He still needed to pass 2 more stages before he could be selected. He only needed to cultivate to the 3rd level, and he would be selected. The gap between the 2 was really not small. 2 stages? The colored glaze region master frowned. Yes, 2 stages. As for what it is, please go forward and you will know. The spirit smiled at Yi Tianyun and said, however, you cannot participate. You can go to that area, but you will be assigned to an independent space. You cannot interfere with each other or help each other.